Thank you everybody for being here today. We appreciate y'all. We know this has been crazy times and it's a lot for you to take a time out of your day and travel. Hopefully, despite the pain that is doing recurring mentor training, this will provide you guys an opportunity to, have a little bit of community and help support each other and know that we're here as well as a partner to support all of you with these internships in every capacity that we can, using the guidance and restrictions that we're under as well. And we're thrilled to have such great attendance because not a lot's changed, but a few important things have changed, and we're going to go over those updates on how to get your internships up, onboarded and how to get folks hired and build budgets and all those good things. So one thing that we're trying to change this year is communicating better and more directly with our interns and mentors. So this slide here, we're trying a new system that's similar to what school districts use for communicating to their students called Reminder, I think. And if you would like to opt in, it's not a requirement, but we will send periodic updates regarding things like timesheets and reminders and things like that we'd like our mentors to do throughout the summer. So you have the option of opting into this. All you have to do is punch in the numbers 81010 and then text at IIC Mentors to it, and that will enroll you in or opt you in to getting those communications. And hopefully things will work smoothly. It's a new system we're trying, and we're going to do the same thing with the interns as well, because we find that this young generation doesn't check email, which has been our primary form of communication. So it's going to be a new tactic. And there might even be capacity if you opt in as a mentor to be able to communicate to your interns as well. So we're looking into that as we get like training and things built out. We'll send that to you guys later on through email, but I just wanted to make you aware of it. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about that? Doing good? Great.
That's just a great idea. Text is key.
Yeah, we hope so. I'm not sure how it'll work on your federal devices because I know there's a lot of like extra protections and things, but we'll try it out and see how it goes. And at least we think it should work pretty well for the interns because there's less, restrictions and scrutiny. But we've tried to get the young generation to meet us where we're at, and it's not working. And so we're going the other direction and trying to meet them where they're at. So yeah, we appreciate you guys being guinea pigs with us on that, and hopefully it'll help with communications a little bit. And we might even be able to open it up so you can communicate back and forth with us as well. So thank you for checking that out and being our guinea pigs. Real quick, some of you guys are new here, most of you aren't, but we're just going to go through some of our staff and employees. Josh is actually out today, so you're not going to see him, but he'll be back tomorrow. He's dealing with some personal things at the moment, but he'll be back in the communications, and he's our executive director over the IIC and the Department of Outdoor Pathways here at SUU. We do a little bit more than just IIC, so that's why he has that title. And I've recently been promoted up to assistant director for the IIC, so that's why I'm here helping y'all out today. I appreciate you being patient if I bumble and fumble a little bit because I'm kind of new. I imagine most of you know Taya. She's here in the back, and she sends the lion's share of our communications out to both mentors like you and our interns. So if you haven't marked her as a contact in your mailbox yet, please do it, because a lot of the things that come through, she gets a lot, but it's all important. And even if you don't dig into it deep, keep that stuff in your email. Try to read everything she sends. And yeah, she's real important. If you have any questions regarding like interns and internships and onboarding and HR and that kind of thing, that's her specialty. And I'm kind of a catch-all. I help with a lot of different things. Josh is primarily in charge of agreements, but I've been trying to step up with some of that and then helping with training and things like this. So next we've got Jen. I imagine most of you know her. She's one of our internship coordinators, does a lot of the same things that Taya does. She primarily focuses on our out-of-state interns, but she's real amazing at training, as you guys are going to find. So she's taken over events and training and coordinating for things like this. So definitely remember Jen's face. We've got Howie. He's our crew and youth coordinator. So if you have any interns that are under the age of 18, you're going to be working through him along with Taya to make sure we have the right safety and paperwork and precautions for those young people. And then Howie also runs our field crews for the IIC. So those are more like independent crews that go out and do work on behalf of the forest, but he trains and coordinates the crew leaders, gets them set up, sends them out in the field and make sure they're doing the work right. So if any of you haven't reached out to him yet about crews, if you think you want to pursue that, that's the guy. And then we've got Kevin. He's our academic coordinator, and he's the one that does most of the communicating with our interns through their online educational course that we'll go over later. Among other things on campus, he's kind of like the guy that draws all of the outdoor programs together. And then I do want to point out before I move on, in the back, we have Suzette. We didn't get a slide made for her, but she's a new hire, and she actually is going to help us with things like budgets and tracking your accounts. And then hopefully very soon, we're going to start pursuing some new grants and agreements, specifically non-federal ones, considering all of the craziness that's going on right now. So Suzette and I might be reaching out to you in the near future to collaborate on projects and pitches for additional funding resources. So please take note of her name. And if you guys know of any, potential nonprofits or donors or whatever that could be good partners, please let us know, because we're looking to diversify our funds a little bit. And next slide, I just want to touch on SUU's strategic plan real quick. Remind everybody that those of you that are in the room that work with our interns are working with SUU employees. And so that's why the IIC is beholden to SUU's strategic plan, which I think there's a lot of crossover between our federal priorities as well as our SUU and student priorities. My favorite one is the people, purpose, place. We are people-centric, purpose-driven, and place-empowered. And knowing that, that's why I want to say, we are here to focus on you guys, support, connect the community with the university and our federal partners like you with the university. See the humanity in the room. I know you guys are going through a lot, and our interns are going through a lot. So I want you guys to know that we care about you, not just because SU tells us so, but that it's a good motivator and nice to know that we're empowered to focus on that. And then place empowered, like locals. All of you drove from within a couple hours or maybe 3 at the most. And we love helping and connecting and supporting with the broader community. So those are our priorities, and just remember that. Specifically the IIC, and I go over this every time we see you guys, but it's good to reiterate that we choose to focus on educating and guiding potential and current SU students towards careers, supporting public lands. How many of you in the room are actually prior IIC interns? Look at that. That's a pretty good percentage. And these are just the folks that have turned up. There's a lot more out in the field. So I'd say that that's proof of our success. And we appreciate you guys being champions and continuing on in this industry despite the tumultuousness that it has sometimes. We also like to focus on regional high school students. Going back. Regional high school students. So they don't necessarily have to be college students. We think of them as potential college students. And then going on, trying to empower veterans and then other university students and recent graduates. That's kind of the priority we like to focus on. So as you guys are thinking about your internships and then who you can hire, focus on those. And then moving on, our priorities are also to connect and expand our region's land management organizations like you guys. So when we're going through times where maybe it's difficult to use your funds in certain ways, we hope to empower you by putting those interns in and utilizing them. So that's what we're doing. If you guys have creative thoughts on other ways we can help you connect and expand your capacity, We'll do what we can within our power to do it. And then, as you guys know, providing experiences and supporting the local economy. These positions are well paid, and they do support many aspects of the local community. So please remember those. Trying to think what else I need to touch on. I think that's pretty much it, unless one of you guys have questions or thoughts before we move on to the actual steps to hire your interns. Anybody in the room? Okay, great. Pass them off to Jen.
Thank you. I'm gonna try this. Okay. Okay, so a little more of the meat and potatoes. Real quick, quick show of hands, you're a new mentor, or maybe you've mentored 1 or 2 other seasons. So new that. Okay, wow. So our veteran mentors, bear with us. Some of this will be repeat for you, but we just really want to make sure folks feel confident and comfortable and getting going when it comes time to hire your interns. So pretty standard practice. Step 1, agreement and funding is in place. Step 2, you'll post your internship postings to our website. We're going to do some hands-on stuff with this in a few minutes. Applications are automatically sent to the mentor that's listed in the position announcement. Of course, this is all very normal, common practice. You interview and you select your own interns. We don't place anybody. You get to select who you want to hire. We do ask, please, 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 to notify those that are not selected. We all know what it's like to be waiting and wondering where something is in progress. Tay and I get a lot of calls and emails from interns wanting to know, like, hey, I haven't heard anything, so please just send a courtesy email. We have a template on our website that I'll show y'all, even if it's just like a blind copy email to let folks know. That's very helpful. Then this is the part that looks a little crazy, but I promise it's not so bad. Once you've selected your candidate, you then have a little homework where you're going to submit some forms on our website. And again, we're going to go over this. That's part of why we asked you to bring your laptops. After some paperwork gets rolling, Taya and the intern work on standard hiring paperwork, W-2 or 4, I always get it wrong. W-4, standard stuff, but that can be a holdup, just so y'all know. So if the intern is not minding their email and they're not filling out their hiring paperwork, they cannot start until that is complete. We work really closely with HR and payroll here on campus, like a lot. And Taya is a gift of a human that she will never say this to you, so I will, and she'll probably be embarrassed, but Taya does a lot to get our interns onboarded. She has special permissions to help move things along in the HR world. But it's still going into the summer season. SUU is also processing literally hundreds of employees for the Shakespeare Festival. So we're throwing 200 plus interns at HR and payroll. Shakespeare's throwing just as many. It's not the volume that the federal hiring officials deal with, but just know it's a lot happening at SUU. So you'll always get LinkedIn. Taya will CC you on emails of where things stand. So just know that can be a holdup if the intern hasn't submitted stuff. And then there is a couple-week turnaround just due to the volume at the time of year. If your position, your agency, etc., requires background checks or PIV cards, that's your job. You guys initiate that. We know not all federal partners require that. This year, who knows what to expect on timelines for that. And then last step is making arrangements to send your intern to orientation. Let me see if I can move this little bar out of the way a little bit. Okay, so that's just a very quick overview, but again, we're gonna go through it on the website. A lot of the youth agreements we've seen lately are using language of a $17.75 minimum an hour. I don't know if that applies to all agencies yet, but that's something we've been seeing. Feedback from interns. This is kind of place specific, and we can't tell y'all what to do, but just maybe think about, I'm going to use Zion as an example, just because I know this has happened there. So some places do provide housing for an intern, which is amazing. We've had comments from interns like, wait a minute, I didn't get housing. Someone else did that I'm working with, but we're making the same wage. So I've seen some places either increase or decrease the wage depending on if housing's included. So feel free to get creative in that way. Interns talk to each other, so they know. So again, we can't tell you what to do, but just maybe think about that if housing is provided or isn't provided, or if some interns get it, some interns don't. Our positions, this is an SUU rule, must be posted for a minimum of 3 days.
And is that 3 business days or just a weekend count days?
3 business days. Thank you for asking that question. We also get a lot of questions about sick leave, and unfortunately, it varies by state, but the state of Utah doesn't require it. SUU, the interns are considered hourly employees here at SUU, so they do not get official sick leave. Our few partners that are out of state and the GIS program I run that work across the country, we work with this third-party payroll company called ZAMP. So there are some interns that get sick leave. It's not, we wish it was everybody, but most of you guys are based here in Utah, so your interns are not eligible for sick leave, unfortunately. We do ask, please, 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 to think about SUU student preference and recent SUU grads as you're going through applications. People notice if we're not hiring SUU students, and anytime we do hire a non-SUU student, Taya has to provide justification in that hiring process. And multiple people throughout the university level, even very high ups, see this in the approval queue. So just keep that in mind. We love supporting veterans as well. So veterans preference is wonderful. And then this is just a small little caveat ask is we've had some confusion last year with positions being labeled as like crew or crew leader. We're trying to reserve that specific language to Howie's crew program. So if you're someone that's like, well, we're hiring a crew of wildlife biologists, wonderful, but maybe consider in your job announcement, you're going to say wildlife biology tech. I'm making this up off the top of my head. And maybe you say this posting is going to hire up to 5 interns, right? And so you know that within your own little unit and within the mentor, you guys are going to be operating as a crew, but just try to avoid that language in the posting. Does that make sense? We just had a lot of confusion last year with that. Okay. Shannon touched on this a little bit. If anyone is hiring minors, that's great. Minimum age is 16. There are some extra rules. Do folks typically hire high school students? Can you just show of hands if you are groups? Okay. You're going to? Great. Okay. So just know there's some extra paperwork that both the minor and their guardian needs to fill out. And then we'll talk more about this later, but if you're going to have another like IIC intern supervising these minors, they have to be fingerprinted and they have to do some additional training. Working with minors is a big deal. There's a lot of protections in place. So just know if you're someone that like, oh, that's kind of our plan. We'll touch more on it today, but please follow up with questions if that's your like known intention and you'll have a lot of minors. We want to make sure we're covered and that the minors are protected.
Hey Jen,
Yeah.
Can I interject one thing?
Yes.
Another thing to keep in mind if you're hiring minors, even if they have a valid driver's license and are 16, they're not allowed to drive your federal vehicles under our contracts and agreements. So if you are hiring them, make sure you have someone that is 18 with a valid driver's license that can drive them around. That's it.
Thank you. Please interrupt me, anyone. Okay, so now a little interactive. We know this is death by PowerPoint, so thank you guys. But if you have a laptop, if you're sitting next to someone that has a tablet or laptop, please join us at our website, suu.edu/IIC. And we're going to show you some of that stuff I just talked about, especially since there's so many new people. Okay, so once you're at our website, You'll see this menu over to the left, forms and tools. There's a menu for both you as a mentor and for our interns. So partner tools, that's you guys. There's all kinds of stuff on here. So we have a mentor guidebook, you know, when you have like some insomnia and you want to get put to sleep, read our guidebook. And then going back to what we talked about, the steps to posting a job and hiring an intern, that's here in the center of the page. So I'm just going to show a little bit what these kind of look like. They're basic jot forms. So it's very straightforward. You're going to want to memorize this code, or you're going to email Tay and I and ask for it. 1244 is the new form code. So any time you're prompted for that, it's the same code each time. So this is, again, just to start, just to post your internship. So you're going to title it something. You get to decide how long it's open till, again, minimum 3 business days. And then pretty much everything's a required field. You can scroll down on your screen, but nothing is too confusing on here, I don't think. But if y'all think it is, let us know, because we have easy way to fix these things. So hours, schedule, you know, schedule Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week, 4 10s, whatever you're doing. We do have to ask clarifying questions about interns that take place outside of Utah, just because that initiates if we need to work with Sam. Yes.
I'll back up on the housing a bit. We have housing, but we charge for housing. How do we do?
Great question. There is, so you would say housing available. And then down in this special instructions, no, we should maybe take that away. Does it, oh, okay, it doesn't, but it doesn't post in the position. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is put that note about, like I would put that in the overview. So you're gonna talk about Dixie National Forest is located in Utah, whatever. Use Wikipedia. I don't care. Put your stuff in there. But if there's something special and unique, I would put it in there. Position does come with housing. However, it is charged at a rate of per week, per month, etc. Put it right in there. Cool. You guys have like these, you know, position descriptions. You can copy and paste from your federal source of what this position is going to be like, but try to fill this out. Pretty thoroughly. People want to know what they're signed up for when they're applying for your job. And then down here, this submit agency contact info. This is the person that the applications are going to go to. Okay, that's you or maybe someone you work closely with. Okay, so again, simple jot form, pretty standard stuff. You post your job, you get your applications, you schedule interviews, you decide who you're hiring. The next jot form is going to be a budget submission. This is brand new this year, so we'll see how that goes. But again, required fields. One thing you may not know, but we'll share a resource with you, is the agreement number. A lot of times you as mentors are not the people always that have written the grant or the agreement, but we can help you with that. So same stuff. It is a little bit repetitive. Sorry for that. But again, you're filling out all these required fields and you're just going through step by step. This is cool because it's going to calculate if you have enough money to do what you want to do. Suzette's going to talk more about this in the afternoon.
Okay, so the vehicle insurance button is new.
Yep.
Okay, and so.
So we go back to that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk more about that too.
That's what we're gonna put in the number of months, is it a number of months or an amount?
I'll speak on that.
Yep.
So the question was, there's a new vehicle insurance expense option. And for our Forest Service partners, we'll go into it a little bit further, but long story short, they don't need to build in the cost of vehicle insurance. Our DOI, so NPS, US Fish and Wildlife, BLM partners, if they have to drive a vehicle, there's a chance we need to build in the expense to insure those vehicles. Still kind of up in the air. I'm trying to find other avenues, but just in case, worst case scenario, we're building that expense in. And the amount is roughly, it could go up and down depending on the vehicle and the driver, but $325 a month per vehicle per month. So if they're driving for 6 months in one vehicle, you're doing that times 6. And
But I can make that be whatever you want it to be. Is it easier for you to put in the number of months and to do the calculations? What do you prefer?
As long as we've got a box to put it there, I think that, and if we had to do multiple vehicles per intern, then we would, so that's what's gonna get funky.
yeah, you'll have to do the math.
So that's the only thing. So if we had, say I've got 5 interns, but I'm gonna do 7 trucks or 7 vehicles. If the number, instead of having it be, like if I put in a number for 2 trucks for 4 months, then it's an astronomical amount, but you think it's 1 truck, not 2. Like we just, I'm assuming there's a follow-up spreadsheet like we've always done
Yeah,
to kind of tier it to that, but I think that's, and I don't know how to clarify that, but maybe in the notes section,
and
vehicle cost intern, whatever. You know, if it's gonna be a multiple vehicle type intern, we just need a place to notate that, I think, in the agreement.
Great.
okay.
It happens.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank
And I
you.
think with that in the budget, is it easier to put the number of months that you want per vehicle?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fine. We just,
And then if the dollar amount changes, then we can just fix that. Then you don't have to do any calculations.
I think that's good.
So I'll.
so yeah, we're hearing adjust the tool so that you can select multiple vehicles for multiple months or calculate that. Yes, Laura?
Thank you.
So for example, for us, we might have 2 interns in one vehicle, so I would only want to pay for the vehicle once, right? And so, but I would also want to show that that other intern will also be driving it, right? So maybe split that.
Yes, you could just put.
Half the cost in this intern's
Yeah.
agreement and half the cost in this. Okay, we can definitely do that.
Cool.
And we'll get into it a little bit more, but we're still working on different angles and hoping that, you know, this might not be a thing we have to do for in-state, but just in case while things are still moving, we're building it into the budget just in case. And
It's
we
like-
can adjust it.
Yeah,
on
it
the
feels
back end.
significant. We can't leave it out, right? We hope it can
we should.
not be there. But yeah, this budget doc form just got published. Thank you for the feedback. Again, Shannon will talk more about vehicles a little bit, and Suzette's gonna go through this a little more this afternoon. So thank you, yeah, for suggestions. I love it. Okay, budget form, and then the last one is the new hire agreement, same form code. And this one, again, it feels repetitive. Sorry about that. You're just filling out who you are, what they're doing. This is now specific to your intern. You're doing this for each person you're hiring, of course, and this helps Taya then, once she gets all this stuff, then she can begin rolling with HR and onboarding people. One change you're going to see this year that we talked about over the winter and we built in before the current environment we're in is we're hoping to have people select either the 1st or the 16th for the start date. Okay, so that's how our pay periods fall. And the reason for that is it helps us with onboarding process and it helps us kind of manage batches of interns in larger groups instead of like one person starts on the 1st, one person starts on the 5th, one person starts on the 9th. It gets really confusing for the tracking that we have to do. So this means kind of like onboarded and in SUU's system, and they could start working on this day. So let's pretend you want someone to start April 5th. You're going to choose April 1st, please. And that just, again, helps us on our back end of what we're doing, paperwork management, people management, all that stuff. This is dates we thought seemed to kind of capture our season, but now, you know, it may need to be adjusted for this year to be continued there. But that's just where we're going with that 1st or the 16th. Pretty standard to start someone at the beginning of a pay period, right? Payroll appreciates that as well. Other thing, just to clarify, this is like a little note, but non-SUU student, we include people that are enrolled in other universities, our high school friends, or recent college graduates. That's all lumped into non-student category. And again, similar information you've filled in other places. You can copy and paste work assignments, selecting any certifications. So again, you're just going through and filling this out per intern. Shannon, did you have a thought, or you just?
Per position, right?
Per person, per intern, per human.
This form is per human.
Per human. So yeah, and then submit. So not too bad. So those will be your tasks after
Hey, Jen,
all that. Yes.
So the defensive driving CPR, if we check those, that means that we're letting the student come to your orientation. Because sometimes we train and do our own.
Great question. So, yeah, so if you require your person to have CPR first aid, some of them may have done it last year if they were interns with us. Those certs are valid for 2 years. So that's great. If you want to do it on site at your agency, that's fine. And or you can send them to intern orientation to get those trainings, and we kind of foot the bill if they come to us.
Yeah.
So however y'all
And
want to
just
do it.
know if you do it yourself, they will need some kind of certificate or proof that they did it, because we keep that for our records as well. So totally fine if they do it with your agency. We'll just need a certificate for them.
So selecting, as far as this form, do select it regardless of
Yeah,
whether
you're
gonna
saying
train
this
them or-
person needs these things. Yep. And then we deal with that logistics of you or us later. And basically, if you send them to intern, which we hope you send them to intern training, but again, you may not. Some people may just need to come the first day because we do those trainings usually the second day. So great questions there. Okay, so whirlwind overview of hiring, but again, pretty standard practice, and then SUU's forms to follow. Taya, we're gonna pass it over to Taya. And yeah, just a little more overview. Things are pretty standard. Do you want this one or the hand? Okay. No one likes microphones, but we have to for our phones on Zoom.
Or I can project really loud too, so.
But they won't hear you on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so like Jen had kind of mentioned some of the onboarding. So basically this is when an intern, you've selected who you want. The intern and me will work on doing the onboarding process. So what they will receive from me, and you will also be CC'd on, is an email that will have an attachment, a PDF of the hiring paperwork, which will include like SUU's hiring cover sheet that we have, a W-4, and then it will have a website link on the email that they'll go to the I-9 website that they'll fill out. And then they'll also have like an SUU form that is something that's directly from HR. And then what they'll do is they will receive that. So first, what they'll need to do is they'll need to send me the PDF document back. I verify that information in the I-9 website that they'll fill out. The big crucial part on that is you as a mentor can be part where you'll fill out, you can be like the verification person for their I-9, which means they have to verify, a person will need to verify their IDs in person is what it comes down to. And you will get like an email link. It's not always a mentor, but if the intern is close to you, I would always prefer the intern to go directly to the mentor to verify the IDs. Basically, you're just looking at their IDs. It could either be a passport, driver's license, social security number, and it will actually give you a list because you'll get like an invite through your email, and it'll walk you through how to fill it out. Once that is done, and the intern has filled out their section, it's basically split into two sections, section 1, section 2. Section 1 is going to be their stuff. They'll upload their documents. You'll be able to view them. But I want them to be able to bring them in person to see them. Once you complete that, I will actually have access to that I-9 website. Then I go in and verify my part. These are special permissions that I've gotten from HR to kind of help push that process along. So we're not waiting on HR for everything. So they've given me a lot of permission to be able to do some back access. So once they fill out this paperwork, this is crucial for them to be able to start. The biggest issue that I have sometimes that we run into is interns aren't looking at my emails. They do get a lot of emails from me, but the reason why they get these emails is because it's the paperwork. And if you have submitted all your stuff, but we're still waiting on them to complete theirs, they are not gonna be able to start until I get that. Because once I have it in my hand, they are legally able to start that day. Even if HR still needs to process them, if we have them in hand, they are legally able to start. That's just their role. Their timesheet may not be up yet. That can take a couple of days. That's why we say sometimes it could be a minimum of 4 weeks. Unfortunately, we found that out last summer because last summer was kind of a nightmare with that. Just because of HR having to onboard all of our interns, over 300 something interns with Shakespeare, and then all of our other summer interns that work on campus. So that's a lot of paperwork for them to do. So I help with a lot of it for our interns, but unfortunately they still have to do some stuff on their end to get it going. So just know when you are going to submit that paperwork, try to submit that agreement and budget weeks ahead of time so we can get that process going. But you guys will be informed on all those emails of the communication that I sent to interns so you know where they're at. So now if your intern is working outside of the state of Utah, please also give some time in that too, is because we have to not only, there's actually extra paperwork that I'm still working with HR right now that out-of-state interns have got to fill out. I have to fill out some extra paperwork on my end, for out-of-state interns as well. So we want to make sure if they're out of state, we're given some extra time to get this paperwork done. And then same thing, there'll be communication with you guys with, the out-of-state interns as well. So, certain states, like we kind of mentioned, Jen mentioned earlier with sick leave. Unfortunately, obviously we can't do that with Utah interns until they end up changing that. But right now, since we go through ZAMP, certain states that they live in will provide sick leave, and that is up to ZAMP themselves to notify the interns. I don't have access to that stuff. Interns will have access to, because all interns will have access to a SUU portal. But if they're an out-of-state employee, they'll also have access to ZAMP portal, which I will send them that information as well if they're an out-of-state employee, and ZAMP will notify them if they have sick leave. They work that out and arrange that as far as like a day that they take off. They do all the tracking. We unfortunately do not handle that. So if they have any questions about sick leave, that is something that they have to contact ZAMP with. And for those out-of-state interns, there is a $12.50 processing fee that just gets charged to the agreement that they're on. It's every payroll. So those out-of-state partners are aware of that payroll processing fee that they pay for, basically is what we pay for ZAMP. So, SUU student interns, this is kind of what we usually go over each year is obviously the summer season is usually April through September. Winter season is October to March. For out-of-state, SUU students during the fall and spring, they could only work 20 hours a week. Obviously on breaks, like summer break, winter and spring break, they can work 40 hours a week. The hours are tracked, and it is very complicated how SUU has changed our tracking system, but just know they are being tracked and I will communicate with you, on their hours. And so you also, mentors will get this information as well as interns, and you'll also have access to the monthly budget spreadsheet, that Suzette will also go over. So you get a little bit more familiar with that as well. Non-students, same thing, April through September for summer season, winter season, October to March. And for the difference with SUU or non-SUU students, does not matter if they're a student at Utah Tech, they're still considered a non-SUU student. So they can work up to 40 hours a week, up to 6 months, which is about 960 hours. And that's typically how we track it, is the 960 hours. It's definitely an advantage for your interns that are non-students. But do know they are still limited to that 1,500 hours, just because we do not provide, because of the Affordable Care Act, we do have to stick with those regulations. So they cannot go over the 1,500 hours. There is kind of a new change this year. So, and I know it may kind of get some more questions, but we've had to do this because of what Jen had mentioned earlier, the scrutiny that we were getting right now with non-students. I do have to provide a justification. Every time I have to submit higher paperwork for non-students, I have to submit a justification on why we are hiring a non-SUU student. So what we have done is officially as of this year, all non-students can only work 1,500 hours max. And yes, within a year, they cannot go over that 1,500 hours, but what we mean is in general is say you hire an intern, they do one summer internship, they can come back to do another summer internship as long as they have not hit that 1,500 hours in total worked with us. That is kind of a new thing, and I know that may raise some questions, especially for those ones that are going to work a non-student for that 960 hours. The problem with that is they're already going to have 960 hours, so they're going to be limited on having whatever's remaining of that 1,500. So I have to track that a little bit differently this year. I know in previous, we've said, yeah, we'll continue to have a non-student once their hours, because the new hour system, it's really confusing to explain. So I apologize if I confuse you guys even more on that, is the way it's, yeah.
So from year to year, sometimes we don't know if we're gonna have a position or not.
Mm-hmm.
Each year's a different job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is the cap count for the same person or is it?
It's for the same person.
Different by job.
Yeah, so it's by the person. So say if you have an intern that works with us this summer and they worked a summer internship and they worked, say, 600 hours. They come back next summer. Out of that 600, they've already worked 600. So out of that 1,500 is what they're going to have remaining after working that 600 with us.
Even if the job's on,
Yes.
if like they live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that starting this year?
Yes, as of this year. So it does not affect last year. So we've had a lot of interns that, you know, say they graduated and they worked full time and now we want to bring them on this summer. That previous one does not count. We are only starting it as of this summer. So because we know we've hired a lot of hourly non-students and it does get tricky, and I know that's going to raise a lot of questions with that because a lot of people want to get that same intern from last summer to come back because the experience, and we understand, and unfortunately it's gotten, because of the amount of scrutiny, and I know Shannon can talk back on that too, it has gotten very difficult where our higher ups keep questioning, because we're under SUU, why do you keep hiring students from other universities all the time? But we understand we're not always going to be able to get all SUU students. It's impossible. It is really impossible to have all SUU students. And mind you, high school students are completely exempt from this. The reason why is because they are potential students. So that is the good thing if you're going to hire high school students. Yeah.
Sorry, just to clarify, high school student, does that include, so if they're going to high school the next year or if they just barely graduated high school?
So if they barely graduated, that year doesn't technically count because they're still technically high school because they haven't entered college yet. That year that they graduate doesn't really count. Yeah. Yes, Suzanne.
We do budget. SUU HR has came out with a standard to tell if a person is eligible as an SUU student. So if they have graduated and they are enrolled for the upcoming fall semester, then they can technically be considered an SUU student.
Yeah, and yeah, that's been the same tracking that I've done when I worked in HR, is that same. I look at that. So that is the thing as I do, once you submit paperwork to me, since I have that back access, I actually can pull up something in our system to see if they were a previous student or if they're going to be a student. So that is helpful because I do have to mark them, and that's how I gauge whether they're student or not. Because if they're not an SUU student, then I have to provide justification to our VPs. And they do look at that. It is kind of a pain to have to put that on every hiring document that I submit, but that's something that they're like, hey, we've got to do this going forward. So yeah.
We talked about changing jobs. Sometimes you'll have an intern that'll, 1 year at Zion and 1 year at Brooks.
Yeah.
That is still as a non-SUU student, but SUU employee still.
Yeah, because they look at it as the way that SUU looks at it is they do so if you've ever gotten those timesheets from me, it says HSHN. So that HN justification is showing hourly non. So in SUU system, they're registering it as they've worked already. So now, okay, I guess let's do a better clarification with our this is with also to this 1,500 as far as the overall with the internship. Like if they've worked on campus with a different student job type of thing, no, that one doesn't count. I mean, as far as like the Healthcare Affordable Act, we still have to be careful with, they don't max over the 1,500 hours. But as far as our program, because of the scrutiny of our program, if they worked a campus job, that's different because it's not IIC related, I guess, if that makes sense. So if they've done an IIC internship with us, say they do one this summer and their work, whatever hours they worked, that next year that you're bringing them on, we're going to look at how many hours they worked that previous summer. And we're going to say, hey, they have a remaining. So that's where I'm going to communicate to you as the mentor to say, hey, I've noticed this intern did. And so this is going to be next year when you guys are hiring. I would email you to say, hey, this intern worked an internship with us. This is their availability that they can work. And most of the time, it's just for summer internships most people are hiring for. But the problem that we've ran into is these ones that they work summer and now they're extending them to fall and spring. That's where we're taking that limitation from that intern. So now their availability to work next summer is going to be a lot harder.
And that's like on non-SU students, the school administration wants to see like this program is benefiting SU students. That's why it exists on this college campus.
Yeah.
So that's really what it's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and kind of related to that, a lot of the feedback we've gotten from SU interns and also just students is that some of them will apply for jobs year after year after year and they can't get in. And they're current students and it's required for some of their degree programs. So that's one of the ways we're trying to make a compromise, but also motivate you all as partners to try to focus on those SU students first so that they can meet those academic requirements and have those opportunities and allow new young people to come in and get those experiences versus folks that have graduated and have been trying to be in the workforce for multiple years. Those graduates and those non-students are taking away opportunities from current students that are hoping to build up their resumes. So I hope that kind of explains it a little bit. And feel free, you guys can reach out to us individually if you need more details on particular interns, because we can look at their, records and things. So there you go.
And then also this helps not just if we were to take the SU students out of it too, this also gives the availability for even say like a Utah Tech student that's been applying every year and can't get an internship. This gives you the opportunity to hire somebody new to give them experience for an internship. Because that is a sad thing. I do have a lot of people that will reach out saying I keep applying every year. And granted, it could be because maybe they don't know how to fill out application properly. And I always tell interns a good cover letter, you don't necessarily have to have experience. Obviously, some you do, but it's like you're selling yourself to say why this is going to help me. So even for those non-students, we want to be able to also give them a chance for an internship because I see with hiring that we are hiring the same people over and over again each year. And obviously if they're students, they can continue to work multiple internships, but the problem is for those non-students that keep getting hired every year, we want to give that opportunity to somebody new because somebody wants that chance. They're thrilled about these internships. They're excited about it. I want to be able to give, and you as an agency, be able to give them an opportunity for these positions too. So that's basically what it comes down to. And if you guys have more questions, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to answer more questions. So this is kind of just like an example of our schedules. This is always a question too, is federal work week versus Utah or SUU's work week. I don't know why SUU does the work week we do. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of wonky. The Saturday to Friday thing, but that's how SUU has it. So a lot of people always ask me, I want to make sure I'm not going to have overtime, so sometimes it's helpful to try to look at that Saturday to Friday schedule to make sure they're not working more than that 40 hours during the summer. So when you're scheduling them, look at that work week because the federal work week is going to be a lot different. They may end up having overtime if you're looking at your federal work week versus SUU's work week. So another thing is payroll basics. These have not changed. It's always the 15th or the end of the month. I now send reminders the day before payroll is due. So now I've started CCing mentors on those emails. So you're aware, and hopefully with that text thing that we're doing, that's also helpful where interns are looking at emails, they're getting that text reminder. This is something that I could even send out to mentors. Like, hey, payroll's intern is due, make sure they're getting it due before they leave the office. Maybe they can sit at a computer real quick, log their hours. Because the biggest thing is if they don't, they're gonna be paid late, and that sucks for an intern, is not getting paid in time. So their paydays are gonna be, so the way it works is if you look from the 1st to the 15th, they will always be paid on the 25th. If you look at the 16th through the end of the month, they are gonna be paid on the 10th of the following month. So late time forms, they will delay them one full pay period. And that's a bummer when that happens. So I do email interns if I notice when time is due that something's pending in a pending status. I will email that intern to say, hey, you have by this time to resubmit your timesheet so it prevents it from being late. So I do give them notification about it. But if they don't, unfortunately, they're stuck doing a late time form and their pay will be delayed a full pay period. So just know if you guys have questions on that, feel free to reach out to me about that. You will get an email from me the day after they submit time. So if time is due on the 15th, on the 16th, you will get an email from me with like a spreadsheet showing the overall hours. This has been a common question that gets kind of confusing. You'll see, say 88 hours. And most pay periods on an average that we've noticed during the summer, there's usually 11 working days. So you may see 88 hours. That doesn't mean they're going to actually have overtime. It's just the way the time goes from that 1st to the 15th or the 16th to the end of the month. So on average, you'll see for most, like you see May 15th, 1st to the 15th, there's 11 working days. So they're going to have 88 hours. That does not mean they'll have overtime. But if you're not sure, you can always email me. I can send you a screenshot of their weekly hours, and I can send that to you to verify. But I do check if there's overtime and stuff like that. But on the average, you're gonna see most of the time it's like 88 hours or 90 something hours on average, because it's about 11 to 12 working days in the pay period. And this is what it will look like. So you'll see some 89 hours, and sometimes during the summer, I've noticed 100 something hours. But that does not mean they have overtime. It's just the way the work weeks are. But if you're definitely not sure, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to screenshot their weekly hours so it could actually tell you what they're actually submitting each week. And sometimes it is helpful if you guys have time to sit down with them or even have the intern saying, hey, what did you submit? Will you send me, a screenshot of your hours? You can request them to do that, or before the end of the day, you can have them submit their hours. Another question that I do get from interns and mentors is, say they're out on the field Friday and their time is due that Friday. They can submit their hours ahead of time, as long as you know that that's what they're working. Because we do run into that issue. Maybe they may not have service to submit their hours and they have that deadline. So if that happens, they can submit it early. That's okay. And if you notice any discrepancies, reach out to me and I can edit those timesheet forms. But I have to do it by the deadline. Otherwise, I'm just going to approve them. And then if I have to fix them, it's a big mess to backtrack that. Any questions so far on the timesheet stuff? Okay. Holidays. I will notify interns on holidays. If they choose to work them, they are not going to get time and a half. They will just get their regular hourly pay. We do have some extra random holidays sometimes that may not be considered holidays for you all, but will be, I know, especially for out of state, the Pioneer Day, that's a Utah thing. So I know a lot of out of state people are like, what's this random holiday? Like, just look at it as an extra day off if you want to take it. If not, just work it. You're still going to get paid your regular hourly pay. But I will send them emails about that, because our holidays, SUU's holidays, will change sometimes because we have like floating holidays that will be given. So I will email you and the intern so you guys are aware of those upcoming holidays. I try to send them a week prior. Just in case if you need to schedule those times, it's not a problem if they work, but a lot of interns do ask, do I get that time and a half? Unfortunately, they don't. But if they don't work it, we do not want them logging any time, because they won't get paid for those days. So,
Point of
yeah.
clarification. So for example, many of our agencies do not recognize Pioneer Day.
Yeah.
But as a state employee, Pioneer Day is considered a holiday.
Yeah.
What you're saying is if they don't work it, they don't get paid even though they're a state employee?
So I guess the way to put it is if, because SUU considers it a holiday, and if they have the day that they can take off if they want.
And they would still get paid
yeah.
hours for that day.
So, well, if they take the day off, they would not get paid for it. Yeah, it's because of the non-benefited part, because they're hourly employees. We have a lot of people that ask, like, we wish we could pay interns for that, but because they're not benefited, they don't provide the pay for
I just wanted
it.
to make sure that if they didn't work, they were still gonna get paid. I don't wanna take advantage of the intern and I go, I have to be here, but I don't get extra. What you're saying is it doesn't matter, it's just a straight day, even though it's a state holiday.
Yeah, they basically have the option to take it off and if they, yeah, they're not gonna get paid. Most of them are gonna work it anyways, because it's Pioneer Day. Not a lot of people take that day off. I mean, if they want to, great, but most of the time they're like, I'd rather work it because I'm gonna get paid for if I work. And if I don't, I'm not getting paid, you know? Yeah, it's just straight pay. So overtime, this has been another question that we get. We know occasional overtime does happen. So if an intern, for instance, works 42 hours or 43 hours, we're not gonna really scoff at that. Now, if it's consistently, we wanna make sure you as a mentor are adjusting their time to make sure they're trying not to go over that 40 hours. And we understand this has been a big question. Well, it's our money. Why can't we just let them work? Type of thing. We understand that, but SUU also too, our HR, they don't want interns working overtime. And if they do, we have to get permission, and it's not always guaranteed. So if you know they're working on a certain project that they're gonna have overtime, send us an email so we can then reach out to HR to say, hey, this is why they're gonna work this overtime, you know, and to make sure we get permission. But don't guarantee that to an intern till we can guarantee from HR that it is approved. But we obviously know first when an intern gets hired, they're doing the intern training, all that stuff, they're gonna have overtime. That is common. So that first payroll that they're getting started, I'm not looking at overtime. The reason why is a lot of them are working, doing our trainings, doing your initial trainings with you. We understand that. That's gonna be common. So I'm not gonna look at that. Going forward though, please know when you are scheduling them that you're making sure they're not working overtime. But if they have a special project, reach out to us to get permission first. And then once you get approved, then you can say yes, that you can work this amount of hours. This also too cuts into your budget is another thing if they're working overtime, because they are getting that time and a half if they're working that overtime. So the thing is, if you're submitting a budget for 100 or 300 something hours and they're working overtime for a few weeks, that now internship end date is going to be even sooner because now they're cutting into that budget because of that overtime. And some people may be very limited on their budget and may not have enough to be able to say, hey, I have to come out with money for an extra 2 weeks because of overtime to make sure that to make them to their end date. And that can be a problem. Some may have the extra money, some don't. So please know it does cut into your budget. But, and another thing is a thing I've been hearing from mentors and interns, what if they work overtime and they're worried about getting in trouble for overtime? They're like, can I just put it on next pay period? No. Legally, if they worked it, they have to log it. We do not want interns putting any hours on another pay period, even if they're gonna have overtime. It is illegal for them to do that. They have to legally get paid for the hours they work too, especially if they have overtime, then we're now cutting that time and a half from them, which is not fair. So now they're getting underpaid for that. So please make sure they are logging the time that they actually work. So let's see, like I said, prior approvals, and make sure you're looking at that Saturday through Friday time. Another thing, if you have any interns that are going to be physically working in California, our system is not set up to calculate their overtime. California now calculates not only the weekly overtime, but daily. So they get double the overtime. So California is I would say is one of my nightmare states to work with. Because of the different legalities that we have to deal with constantly with California. So we have made a standard rule, if they are working in California, they cannot work more than 8 hours a day. Because once they do, that is not only, they're being calculated for overtime for the daily hours and not just the weekly. So it gets very messy. Bonuses, this is, yeah. I would say the average one that I'm seeing is 10. Sometimes I may see 12, but those are the ones that are gonna be likely to get the overtime. Yeah. Yeah, those are the ones that we kind of want to make sure we get an email to, because the problem is because I've had this question, we had somebody that did bat surveying and it was a long day for them and payroll stopped their timesheet and was like, hey, this isn't normal. Why are they working? I had to provide justification to them why they work this 16-hour day type of thing. So yeah. Yeah, just communicate. So then, because basically payroll's gonna want to stop it. So then I have something to send them and this is why. Yeah. Sorry.
So like,
Yeah.
if they're out and it's 15, 16-hour day, I just wanna be conscious of that too. I don't wanna say I know, but
Yeah.
we've all had different experiences when we've had work with that.
Yeah.
So I just wanna be really cognizant of the risk that we take as potentially federal or state, et cetera, employees. And then interns are interns, they're employees of the state, so we just have to also be cognizant of the risks that we're taking with them. So I think being on a project is really great. You know, maybe we're gonna facilitate a little bit different, you know, the intern arrives, et cetera. So
Yeah.
just wanna put that out there.
Yeah, and especially when, this is another thing I'll throw out, especially if they're a minor. Minors, we do not, that's where we, so don't have a minor work more than a 10-hour day. Just because that's another level, because we do have to we get audited for our minor stuff and it's gotten really scrutinized with that. Because yeah, obviously it's safety, I get it, they're minors. So we just want to make sure that we're not having minors work any of that stuff. And also too, safety things that they're looking at, what minors are doing too. Like the ATVing type stuff, we got to be careful with that one because I work workers' comp in HR and that can get really muddy. So we just have to want to make sure we're careful with the minor stuff. So.
It's awesome. Hey, we're gonna have you guys camp in the field for 3 nights so we can collect the data, so we get back to the site, whatever. That might help balance the hours and just, you know, a little more of a safety consideration if that is an option for the field site or where, you know, yeah.
Maybe this is just kind of a case by case basis, but how appropriate is it to give them choice? Like, do you want to work working order? Or do you want to camp? You know what I mean? Because I would like to give my interns input on like, this is the task that we have to get done. Yeah. How are you comfortable in doing that? I would ask them.
Yeah.
So, that's we know some of these projects are, you know, special circumstances and things. Yeah, communication, that's just where we're coming up for so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
If we're doing like an 8-day backcountry hitch, or like, you know, six day, 8-day, we just have to be cognizant of that 40-hour work week. And so like making sure that rolled over to period where they're not getting overtime for that. And
Yeah, because then you could look at that Saturday to Friday and kind of figure out if they are gonna have overtime, and if you know, if it's a couple hours, it's not a big deal, but if you're looking at 5, 6, whatever hours, then what you could do is you could email me with all the list of the interns that are gonna be part of this project. And then what I would do is then send it to HR, because you would have to give me an explanation why. Most of the time they approve that stuff, because it's during the summer, and it's like a one-time thing. But at least try to give me at least a week or so, cause HR is super busy and I just wanna make sure before you're telling the intern like, yeah, we're good. But at the same time, say maybe you didn't end up having that project, you know, and they didn't end up working, it's fine. You at least have it just in case, you know, so, but yeah, it's just really good to just inform me, but yeah, look at that Saturday to Friday. And I know it's really weird, I hate the Saturday to Friday thing, doesn't make sense to me, but wish SU would change that work week and make it a lot easier. So anyways, for bonuses, when you're initially doing your first budget, this is something that you can budget in. Some mentors aren't gonna know towards the end, if they wanna do a bonus. The one thing I do wanna make sure if you are wanting to give a bonus, just make sure you're trying to figure out that budget that you're gonna be able to do it. Our limit is $500, but please know it is taxed. So, and sometimes depending on what the intern is claiming for their tax, it can be a hefty tax that's being, you know, paid. So they may definitely not get, I mean, some of them may only get like $300 something, which is kind of a steep thing to, you know, take out to be taxed. So sometimes what we do recommend is maybe give them a little pay bump. And that's when you can work out that budget to try to see if maybe that's an option. Some tend to want to give bonuses towards the end, kind of like a merit raise type of thing, which is common. What I do recommend is make sure you're sending that to me a couple of weeks prior before they're done, because once they are termed in our system, I can't backdate it because the payroll has to be open for that bonus to be paid out. Because if a payroll is closed and they're done, we can't pay it out because it has to be paid through a payroll. So just make sure to get that to me a couple weeks prior to when they're going to be done. And then two, if you are going to give them an increase, look at that $1 to $2. Once it starts getting 3 to 4, HR is going to question it. And so is our payroll. And then we have to provide justification why. And being that a lot of our interns are getting paid more than normal SUU student employees, they're going to kind of scoff it, you know, if we're giving too big of an increase. So we just have to look at that too. So uniforms. So every intern that comes to our intern orientation will get an option of like a shirt or a hat. That's not really considered uniform. It's just something that we give them as part of being the IIC. But we do have options to do like custom requests for uniforms. That is something that you'll work with Shannon with, but you can reach out to me and then I can talk with Shannon about that. Out-of-state interns will just receive, I think it would be just an IIC shirt. Another thing too that's common is equipment. Sometimes mentors will want to pay for like boots, stuff like that. If that is the case, make sure you submit a purchase order form prior. And the reason why is some of your agreements that we have to actually look to make sure that uniforms are okay to order under that agreement because we have to bill the agreement that they're on. So that does have to go through approval through our office to make sure that that's available on the grant they're being paid out with. So just make sure you are submitting these purchase forms. Don't have an intern go buy the boots and then do a reimbursement because we've had the issues in the past where they say, hey, we have $500 for an intern to go buy work boots. They go to buy them and then we're trying to reimburse them. But when we look at that agreement, it doesn't allow us to pay back for uniforms. And then it becomes a big problem. So make sure that we're doing the purchase order form first. Put the website that you want those shoes ordered through or whatever. And then once it's approved, I can order those. And then I will send you the receipt with that purchase order so you know what's going to be billed to the agreement. And if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on that. And it's not just boots. Sometimes it's gloves or, you know, certain weather gear or whatever, certain equipment that they may need for like hiking or camping or whatever. That's fine. Just submit that purchase form and we'll make sure it's allowed on the agreement. And then I'll purchase it. And I'm pretty fast at purchasing it. And then I'll send you that information so you know where it's being mailed to and everything. So you have the receipt and you know what's being billed to the grant. Any questions on uniform stuff? Okay, reporting. So I'm going to kind of put this out there. It's always disheartening, but we've had a few sexual harassments last year. It was a very uncomfortable situation to get these. as well as standard discrimination. It definitely went up last year. So we want all of you to be very aware that interns are required to do sexual harassment. This is something that is done on SUU's platform. We've been trying to work with them to have more capability on our end to track that, but SUU does it. We want to make sure that interns are safe as well as mentors. We understand it can happen on both sides. We have added stuff on our mentor handbook that actually provides steps for sexual harassment training for mentors, as well as interns, as well as discrimination. So it shows you the steps for mentors and interns. We just want to make sure that is not happening, because if it does happen, say if we have a mentor that has harassment, that mentor will be blacklisted from our program. Same thing if an intern does it, that intern will be blacklisted from our program. We have no tolerance for sexual harassment and stuff like that. It's not okay. So please know we are very cognizant about that kind of stuff. Did you have a question, Jen?
Yeah, I'm just spacing what I was gonna say. Oh, SUU, as employees, we are required reporters of something like this. So if someone is harassed or discriminated against in the workplace, and an intern comes to us and tells us or shows us, hey, my mentor is texting me this, that happened last year, we are required to report that to our Title IX office. So we can't keep that information secret if an intern shares something like that with us, just so you guys know. We are all required reporters.
Yeah, so we will notify, say if it happens, to give you an example, if it is a mentor, we are going to contact their supervisor to reach out to them. Now, we do provide information for the intern to be able to report it, but they are technically not obligated to report it if they don't want to. But we do have to at least report it. Title IX will get involved. They'll reach out to the intern and give them a chance if they want to, but that is up to their discretion. But we will notify you if it is within the agency, vice versa. And another thing about reporting is vehicle accidents. Same thing with work-related injuries. We do have on our website, mentors and interns, the steps to be able to report those. A big question that we get, especially for like work-related injuries, is on the forms it does ask for like supervisor. We've had questions from mentors and interns saying, who do I put as my supervisor? Because most want to put me as their supervisor because they're an SUU employee. But where I'm not out in the field with them, I don't know exactly what's happened. So what I've been telling interns, put your mentor or whoever your supervisor was in the field. Because basically the reason why they need that is then that person will get an email basically asking further questions about the accident. Because the more information we have, the better, you know, for our workers' comp, because HR, because sometimes interns don't describe the accidents very well, or maybe the way that they interpret it's very confusing to HR, and they're like, okay, can you explain a little bit more about this? Or they don't give enough information, and then we're getting a call to get it. So the more detailed an intern can be, the better. And obviously if it's an emergency, 911, take them to the emergency room, get that taken care of first. Health and safety is number one priority, but then make sure, because you as a mentor can also help fill out their portion of that injury report. We just want to make sure we have it, because the biggest thing that we run into is interns not being charged for those costs. We as SUU are covering those costs. They are covered under us. And another one is interns like to say, hey, I work for the BLM, so I want to put them. You guys don't want to be charged for that. That is something on us. So we always tell them you're an SUU employee, so make sure you're giving SUU's information, not the agency that you're working with. So we always make sure report. There is new steps on there. They actually have you call a number first to see if you need medical attention type of thing, or if they want you to go to work med. Obviously, we know a lot of them are working out in the field. There's not a work med close. Go to ER if you need to, or the health clinic that you have closest to you. But we just want to make sure that we are notified too. So it is helpful to notify us to let us know what's going on, because we want to check in with the intern. We want to make sure they're okay. Anything that we can assist to. And if they have limitations on work that they can do, you as the agency or mentor will help make sure that those are abided by. So say if there's limited duty that they have to go off, make sure that you're working with them with us. Any questions? I know that was kind of a lot real fast, but I'm always here to answer any questions. I know it's a lot of information. Some of you have heard it multiple times, but please know we're just making sure we're informing you about stuff, keeping you up to date stuff. And we just want to be able to answer any questions and be there for you as a mentor as well as our interns. Any questions? No? Okay. I will hand it back over to Jen.
Okay. We'll go a little quickly through some of these slides. Travel, some people will use this and some people won't. A big reminder, relocation expenses to get an intern to a park to begin their work or workstation and daily commuting are not covered. SEU does not consider that travel, just much like federal partners would consider that a relocation. So just remember, we get that question quite a bit. Travel is not relocation or daily commuting. You'll budget for travel at the front end of everything. Overhead costs apply to travel as well. And then if you are having someone go far away, we do work with Utah State Travel Agency to book a lot of arrangements. So if you have the opportunity to send your intern to a conference or something like that, that'd be amazing. But just know there's some lag time and turnaround, so please plan ahead. Examples of time, mostly that would apply to this room, I would say would be anyone camping in the field. Our friends from like Great Basin or Parishon or the Kaibab, if they maybe drive to Cedar City for intern orientation, something like that. These are all examples of when like a travel form would need to be initiated, which is through our website, and that's something that myself and Taya would work directly with the intern on. The one budget travel thing you all just keep in mind, if you're from further away, that first one would be getting your intern to intern orientation in May. So like Fish Lake friends, Language friends, how are you sending your intern? And if they haven't done federal defensive driving, they're not driving a G-rig, so who's getting them there? Is it mileage reimbursement? Do they have a chauffeur for the day, et cetera? Just be thinking about that in your early planning. Yep. In the one way. Yeah. So I think those are fair examples. Yeah. Or I'm trying to think of our like just over the border, Great Basin, Parishon, Kaibab are the ones that come to mind. And then just quick screenshot here, camping per diem, a number of years ago with you guys as federal partners, agreed that $32 a day for the camping per diem was a little more reasonable than what used to be offered. And then that's just the breakdown of other per diem. And then if they do drive their personal vehicle, this is not SU's preference because they're not covered. If it challenges liability coverage, I'll just say that, but it's 50 cents a mile, which is standard federal reimbursement rate. Okay, we're gonna get Kevin up here. Kevin is our academic coordinator. We get lots of questions about Canvas. What I'll say, it's our online student platform. And Kevin, I think if you want to actually show them Canvas, I meant to have this. You can start talking.
So yeah, this is one of those another one of those areas where the university wants to know, how is this program related to the university and how is the university benefiting from this? This is one of the ways that we demonstrate like, oh, all of these interns are completing these educational components. That's the value to the university. They're all potential students, even if they're recent graduates from SEU or if they're attending another university. We want to demonstrate that we are providing something educational. So Canvas is the online platform where they can submit different assignments. They can complete a lot of the trainings that we have required for them. The driver trainings, the Title IX trainings, all that kind of stuff is tracked through Canvas also. So we can see that they have completed that. And we're able to, again, track that these things are done. We've also got all sorts of resources on how-tos. They're keeping a work log that they can see like, oh, here's how PLC works, and I can go look in Canvas and see if I qualify or how I can make sure that I'm keeping up with all of that stuff. There are a few assignments that we're requiring of them. Again, that's to demonstrate that there is an educational component. That's the value to the university. That's why our program exists underneath the university umbrella. We're asking them to do some goal setting. We want them to keep a work log. That's helpful for them in the future when they go to build their resume and their portfolio, but it's also helpful for us for our annual reporting purposes because we can see specifically what projects they're working on and what things have been completed. And then as we build future agreements and stuff, we can say like, look at these are the kinds of things that are being accomplished. Students have the option to submit to the digital showcase, so they can earn scholarship money through the digital showcase, just based on like this is what I worked on over the summer or during the course of my internship. And then
Go to Canvas.
yeah, let's look at Canvas really quick.
I'm curious. Oh.
Like I said, there's just a couple assignments that there's the trainings set up here that we want them to go through and complete early on in the internship process. There's all those resources for them on how to submit time and different reminders, how to be a good intern. And then there's these, like I said, these educational components. This should not be an overwhelming oh my gosh, I got all these assignments I have to do and I have to do this work in the field. This is 1 hour a week. Right. And it is part of their paid time. So if they say, I need to complete these educational component pieces in Canvas, they should be given at least an hour a week to do that. But again, it should not be taking them more than 1 hour a week of their work time to complete these different components. The first one is a summary. It's helping them understand what is expected of them in their internship. How do I explain what I'm doing to somebody who's unfamiliar with the agency I'm working for or the work that I'm doing? This is just kind of like, oh, I'm processing how to explain to somebody else the work that I'm doing. The personal goals and skills assessment, again, they're just setting goals of like, this is what I'm hoping to accomplish over the course of my internship. This is what I hope I get out of it. The weekly project learning log I mentioned already. They're just keeping track of the work that they're doing, the skills that they're using. It's going to be really helpful when they're done with the internship and they're now applying for these professional positions to have that put together of like, oh, now I can remember specifically. We know that USA Jobs is asking for those specifics. They will have them put together there. We want a photo of them in the field. Again, that's for our reporting purposes, and we can demonstrate like this is the cool stuff that these interns are doing. And then a final reflection piece. They just wrap up like, these were the goals I set for myself. This is the work that I did. Here's what I got out of the experience. And then this final reflection piece, like I said, can be submitted as the digital showcase, so they can potentially get scholarship money or a bonus out of that. Any questions, any clarification I can provide on the educational component? Like I said, this is really a big piece of us justifying our existence on a college campus. So please don't shirk it off and just say, if a student or an intern says like, oh, do I have to do these things? I'm counting on all of you to say like, oh, it's not a big deal. Yeah, take that hour, knock those things out. Again, it helps justify why we exist on a college campus and the work that we do, we can continue to do. Oh, right. We do have an option for a certificate that SU offers in public land stewardship. So this is an additional course through Canvas. It's not required. If an intern wants to have that, they want to bolster their resume with this certificate, it's a good way to do that. Or if they're a non-SU student and they want to like just say, oh, okay, like this is a great way to demonstrate like, oh, we've hired this non-SU student. We're going to connect them to the university. Again, helping us justify our existence on campus. The course fee is $141. It can either be paid for by the agency or the intern. So if you have a great intern and you want to sponsor them for this certificate, you can do that. If you don't want to, the intern can also pay for it themselves. BJ, you had a question?
Let's accept this in the spirit of what you did ask. So they're earning a certificate offered by SUU, but they're not an SUU student. That 1,500-hour thing, does that not make them an SUU student?
I'm gonna pop on BJ's back, sorry, that sounds terrible, but.
Well, I know what you mean, you're backing me.
I gotta know, because if the agency, if it was in their budget, if there was a box on the budget that says, yes, I want this intern to be in that certificate course, and we're paying for that out of our agreement, are they then an SUU student?
They don't qualify as a.
That's my question. Okay.
Thanks, Suzanne. And yeah, this is professional development. So it's not at the undergraduate or graduate level. I was gonna say I don't think it would count anyway, because it's considered professional to me. Thank you for asking. Right. Right. It just bolsters that resume. So if they want to add that to pad that resume, this is a good way to do it.
And then it's just because I've never done this before with any of ours. Are we paying for that as part of their budget when we set up their budget, or is it a line item somewhere else that pops in?
You should put that in as a current expense.
Current expense, okay.
Thanks, Susan.
I'll add that here. Idea.
Any other clarifications on the educational component fees? I'm gonna pass it over to Shannon.
Thanks, Kevin. And kind of related to that, I think you guys are all aware, but don't confuse this public land stewardship certificate with PLC verification and certification. That's a hiring path through the federal agencies. This is separate. This is more like a professional development, resume bolstering thing, like we mentioned, and separate. So
Is that course, is it just a course that they can't?
yeah, so if they opt in, we will add in additional assignments for them in that base Canvas course or something like that. It might be like a second Canvas course that we enroll them in if they opt in.
That just correlates.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a little bit extra work. And instead of having them build a work log, they're doing things like building an actual federal resume, learning about USA jobs. And there's a few other components like leave no trace and things like that they'll be looking at. So, and it's always under construction. So if you guys have ideas on things that you're like, I just wish these kids knew this thing, and had it when they come in, please shoot those ideas to me or Kevin, and we'll incorporate it into these courses. So I love it.
Do you offer them any credit or course hours for taking this?
That's a great question. It's something we're very close to getting set up. Right now, interns, just for being in these positions, if they know they're required to do an internship credit for their degree program, the internship works, but they have to coordinate with their academic advisor in advance to say, okay, I'm doing this internship, and then they'll enroll into the course for their academic program, and it can give them college credit. This certificate course is different. And we kind of built it as an option for those that don't need that academic credit, but they want to bolster their resume, or for those that have recently graduated or non-SU students to have something that they can connect to the university with. So that's why there's a few options, but we are getting closer to having our internship program default more to offering course credit. And hopefully in the future, they won't have to work with their academic advisor to get that figured out in advance. They'll just be able to, you know, say they did it and get that credit.
They can earn CEUs for this because it's through SU's professional.
Yeah.
So if they need that continuing education unit credit or maintaining some other certification or something, I think it's just 1 or 2 hours, but they can earn that through completing the public plans.
And is that something that if the intern would pay for themselves?
Again, they would, it's part of.
It's in this.
Oh, it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. And that's for all of our interns, federal, non-federal, all of the above. Any other questions on that before we move on?
I'm just wondering if they need a seat.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody can enroll. All right, moving on. So the big heavy driving, I know there was a lot of regarding the vehicle insurance budget. Full disclosure, this is just, like I said earlier, for our DOI, Department of Interior partners. Those grants and agreements are the ones that really indicate that there has to be some kind of vehicle liability coverage. The history of this is that SU used to cover that liability coverage for federal vehicles up until June or July of last year. I shouldn't say SU, it's Utah State Risk. It's a Utah risk department that changed their mind and they said, we're not doing this anymore. Guys, we gotta find something else. They later redacted and said, okay, we'll continue to cover you guys up to the end of June, which is our fiscal year. And we'll continue to work on looking for solutions up to that point. We were initially trying to alter our federal agreements to amend the language or clarify the fact that we don't need to double insure those federal vehicles. And with the craziness that's going on politically, we kind of hit a wall and we weren't able to move forward with those negotiations. So as a backup, right now we're asking those with the Department of Interior, Park Service, Fish and Wildlife, and BLM to just budget in and reduce the number of vehicles your interns need to drive as much as possible, or compile them into as few vehicles as possible. Hopefully we'll find a solution and then we'll be able to utilize that budgeted amount for something else. But just as a backup, that's what we're doing. If you're Forest Service, there's a separate form and we'll show you kind of a link or an easy place to see where that form is. And if you, where you can download it, that you'll need to fill out for your intern to give them permission. It's a Forest Service form. And if you're non-federal, don't need to worry about it. So sorry for taking your time if you're not federal, but that's what we're doing. And so we did get a bid to cover that insurance, and the long and short of it is that it will cost about $325 a vehicle a month. We're going to have to track the driver information as well. So I will be building a form so that you guys can get me all the information we need for those vehicles if we have to go forward with that. We have been gathering vehicle information anyway, and I still have a record of all of that. So if you're using the same vehicles, I'll try to send that to you and you can refer to it and update it. Hopefully it won't be as much work for everyone, but that's just kind of our backup plan. Some things we're working on in the state level and at SUU hasn't been totally polished out yet, but we're investigating the idea of creating a reserve fund instead as kind of a self-insured kind of thing, and then having Utah State Risk hopefully maybe make some compromises that they'll cover us under certain conditions. That's not ironed out yet. I wish I had a clear answer for you all, but I just feel like it's better to be honest, and we'll keep you updated as things change, and we'll send out information through the mentor contact list as it changes. But regardless of the vehicle insurance issue, every intern prior to driving a government vehicle is required to take federal defensive driving certification. They worked in the last year and they got certified last year, they're good. Those certifications last 2 years, so that's a good thing. Utah State defensive driving is also required because they're state employees technically. Luckily, that one's a lot less painful than the federal one. It's only about 20 minutes, and that's in the online Canvas course that Kevin just talked about. We'll also have links for online federal defensive driving, but I encourage you to send your interns in person to in-person training because it's 2 hours less time of their life doing that training if they come to the in-person and get tortured by me personally than if they do the online one. But we get their certificates either way, whether they do the online one or in person. Whoops, coming back. Okay, and then also part of their Canvas course is they're going to be required to upload a copy of their driver's license. We expect you guys as their mentors to also check their driver's license. And then if you know, I don't know, their license has been revoked for whatever reason, let us know because it's our butts and your butts if they do something in a vehicle and that license is not valid while they're at work. So that's kind of a mutual thing we track together. And then, like I said earlier, the minimum driving age, whether they have a valid driver's license or not, is 18 for federal vehicles. If a 16-year-old just got their license and has an incident in one of your vehicles, it will be in question, like who's liable for the damages. So it's our responsibility to make sure 18-year-olds and up are driving those vehicles. And then this might not be applicable to all of your interns, but we do provide the option to do off-road or OHV training online through the Canvas course as well. It's mostly for things like ATVs, UTVs, but probably wouldn't hurt if they're driving trucks on back roads to have them take that training as well, because I think there's some similar things. Yes, Laura. Yes, yep, the question was if it's the official Utah State course, and it is. And we track those certificates as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, Taya, but I think those certificates are good for 2 years as well. Yeah. Okay, yep, all of our certificates, we renew them every 2 years. So brand new interns have to come to training. Last year interns can skip a lot of those trainings. Returning for third year, they're gonna have to renew. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, excellent. Okay, oh, one last thing. Usually this is a given. Interns can't use federal or SUU state vehicles for personal use. That means don't let them run to the gas station for lunch or run home to grab that thing. You know, there are some exceptions if they're stopping on the path from one work site to another, but we discourage it. Federal use or work purposes only. Yes.
As if you hadn't had enough insurance questions. I heard somebody mention this earlier. I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. It's $325 per vehicle per month, regardless of how many interns are going to be driving it.
Correct. Although we will be gathering the driver information and we haven't tested this yet. We're going to have to get all the information and then send it to the insurance provider if we go to that path. And then that amount could go up and down a little bit depending on the vehicle and also the drivers. So if there's a driver with a terrible record and they're driving a brand new truck, which we don't encourage you do, that amount could be higher than 325, but the estimate that they've given us that's pretty padded, so it might even be a little bit lower than this, is 325 per vehicle per month. Does that kind of make it? Yeah.
Based on trucks?
Mostly trucks. So we gave them like a test bid and it was with our current out of state interns. And most of them do drive trucks, I think like Dodge Rams and you know, that kind of thing. So you can put those trucks in. If you have options, one thing I've heard from the insurance providers, we recommend not putting them in anything that's super new or valued over $50,000. Try to put them in those older ones that, you know, work well, but maybe aren't quite the shiny, brand new, expensive ones, just in case, like worst case scenario, they roll over and total it. You know, it could be really devastating for our program if we have to pay more than that amount. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, great. All right, moving on, kind of touching back on that Public Land Corps Hiring Authority. How many of you guys in the room are familiar with this? Okay, most folks are pretty familiar. I won't go super in detail, but this is a hiring tool or authority that the feds use to more easily hire young students or Corps members like our interns are into federal positions. It makes the path and the competitive pool much smaller and much smoother than if you were just doing a regular application. And IIC qualifies. Most of our agreements qualify or will help interns qualify for this hiring authority. The rules are, and I'll have a link to this in an easy to access source for all of you that we're going to go over a little bit later, but oh geez. They pretty much need to be between the ages of 16 and 30 or veterans up to 35. They have to do work under the appropriate cooperative agreement, which most of our agreements will qualify to some degree, but Park Service, there were some changes to the rules, and so there's a little bit of variation there. But long story short, there's a tool. I think I have it linked. Okay. Yeah, so this is on your mentor page. This is also on the interns page in their Canvas course. But I've made what is as good of a quick guide as I can, because it is a complicated hiring authority that will help them and you rule out if they qualify or not. So you guys can refer to this later. But Forest Service is pretty simple. You just have to make sure they have at least 120 hours boots on the ground. The remaining 540 can even be an admin position. They just have to support like conservation and forest management. BLM's really easy. It's the same thing, but you just have to have up to 640 hours. And then also Park Service is a little more complicated. They changed the type of agreement that interns can qualify under. And so long story short, if you have an intern that wants to put in for this, just send them to me and I can look at the agreement and their hours and if they can qualify or not. Additionally, actually, I think it might be, let me see here. I'm just going to look at this monthly tracking sheet real quick. So we're going to go over it more later, but I have linked the quick guide into that tracking sheet. You're going to have a different tab for each of your agreements and where your intern hours are tracked. So you can get that guide right there. Right below it, you can also see how many hours will qualify for PLC Hiring Authority for that particular agreement. So like, let's see. Right here, I have it written down like, yes, if they're BLM, they fully qualify. If they're Park Service, only 520 hours will work. And I won't go into it much more because it is kind of complicated, but just know if there's someone that you're really like, this is just an excellent intern and I really want to get them hired somehow. If you help them get that 640 hours and apply for that certification, it's something we get from the feds. They get a certificate that they upload with USA Jobs. It reduces that hiring pool and it makes it easier for you to pick them up. So we try to do what we can to help with it, and all the resources will be there for you. Are there any questions on that? Doing good? Okay.
It's more a Fed question. Does anybody know in the room, if you hire someone through Public Land Corps, if you hire someone through the Land Management Workforce Flexibility Act, it waives their probationary period. Does anybody know if someone is hired through PLC, if it waives their probationary period?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, that was a good question. So
It's just under these, so you have to ensure that like when you fly the announcement, HR person, and then when you get the certs, I just want to kind of go back to what Shannon said as far as like, it doesn't minimize the applicant pool. What it provides is if you do PLC, you get that list, like PLC candidates within your cert. So it's a non-competitive hiring authority. So when you think about your vet cert or your other lists, you'll get like a PLC list. So that's super helpful. And another thing to think about too, you know, when they use their PLC, like I've had folks use PLC for a GS11, you know, to a GS5. So pending what the position is and what their experience is, you all are providing amazing experience in the field. So they're qualifying for some incredible jobs with their degrees. So I think a lot of times we think PLC like an entry level GS5, but think about what your staff, you know, what experience you're giving them and how that is articulated on their resume. And then that incorporated with PLC really does provide for a really good, not only like recruitment pool, but also a good continuum of, you know, having them at your site for a couple of years and then putting them into a position. And we've even been able to kind of plan when we fly the positions and facilitate that as it relates to when their PLC position is going to be done, et cetera. So really appreciate Shannon and Josh and Taya and everybody's support in how that PLC certificate lines up with the job lens.
Yeah, and we do cover this with the interns at the end of their season as well. Last year we had a really successful federal resume workshop right before our end of season celebration, and we touch on public land court hiring authority because we used to do it at the beginning of the season. They don't care. They don't care until the end of the season when they're thinking about their next job. So I think we had a question.
I think you answered it. So they can apply at the end of their season. And the caveat on top, some, not all internships are available. How do we know?
Yep. So let's see here. Going back to the monthly update sheet. So once you figured out if they're old, like within the age bracket, the next thing you got to do to see if they qualify is this is a sheet, like you're going to get this monthly update report email from Taya, and it'll have a summary of like where your budgets are, how many hours they're up to, that kind of thing. We've upgraded it and I've added to the top. This example is not great. This is our mock one because we didn't want to show off people's real budgets, but you'd see different tabs lower down here. That's where this mock index is. You'll see different tabs for different fund agreements. So you look for yours, select it, and then at the top, I've summarized for each agreement if they qualify. So for this example, I'm thinking this one's probably a BLM agreement. And so it says, yes, they qualify for PLC eligibility under this agreement. Or no, this one would be a Park Service one. Sorry about that. Park Service is the hard one because they have specific types of agreements. They'll let you allow up to a certain number of hours. So almost any agreement, they can get most of their hours, but the Park Service is the hard one. And they're like, it's got to be this particular kind. The remaining 120 have to be under a youth agreement with the Park Service. So it's really complicated, but that's where you'll be able to look. And you can also call me and I can just look it up. If you're wondering, just let me know. And interns too, I tell them to reach out to me if they want to know how many hours they're at. They can apply and I'll summarize like, okay, this period of time you did this many, this period of time you did this many, and they have to put that on the form when they submit to get verified. Yeah. Any other questions? Great. You guys are pretty good. Okay. Let's see. I jumped around. So, all right. You got this?
Let's see what's next. Last couple slides before lunch. So just kind of save the date a little bit. Again, we're all waiting to see how this season unfolds. So we're trying to plan as normal. So these are, we have rooms reserved. This is the current plan for intern training this year. So session 1, May 7th and 8th, here on campus at the Student Center, which is just behind us here in the ballroom. And then session 2, late May, so 28, 29, after the Memorial Day holiday. So always the second day is when we offer the CPR, first aid, and defensive driving. So sometimes interns just need to come to day 1 of orientation. Some of your folks would need to come to both. So just again, make sure you're thinking about that in your budgets and your planning and how are they going to get here. Thinking way, way ahead, save the date. So our end of season celebration is going to be August 13th. Same thoughts. How are they going to get here? Work schedule. We'll send out reminders. And then if you grabbed one of our little agendas today, you'll see this season checklist that we're brainstorming right now for you guys. We had a lot of really great feedback about, I want to see like what I'm supposed to do as a mentor over the course of the season in one place. So it's a draft, you can see it in there. If you want to grab me on lunch and talk more about it or have any thoughts on that, we would love that. It'll also be on our website. Awesome. Okay. So I'm really excited that there's such a mix of returning mentors and new mentors. And I know for those of you that are new to our program, your heads might be spinning a little bit. If you have follow-up questions, if you want to go through some of these training components, please contact Tara or I. We regularly will schedule other trainings for mentors, especially if you're brand new. This is also being recorded, like we said, and historically we've sent out these slides, but a lot of the stuff is also in that mentor guidebook. So don't let it overwhelm you if it feels that way. I'll say that to start. So how do I want to do this? Show me again new mentors just by raising your hand. First timers. That is awesome. Okay, can y'all stand up, please? And just find a little pod of tables over there. We'll start with this. We're going to build little groups. My goal is like returning mentors with newer mentors. So that's kind of where we're going. Those of you at home, you can still kind of just watch the slides and just some things to think about and discuss. And if you need to bring a chair over, that's fine. If your group wants to stand, if your group wants to eventually move around the room, that's fine. Okay. 3, 6. Okay. This is awesome. Okay, those of you that remain are seasoned veterans. Okay, your job now, please, is to like groups of 2 or 3. I don't care what you do. Maybe make a new friend today. You're gonna pair up, like get in a group with a new mentor. So it's probably going to be about 2 returning mentors to every new mentor. Does that make sense? Okay, so find your group. Adopt a newbie. Please and thank you. Newbies, don't be scared. They're so nice. Yeah, you don't have to stay in these like pods because it's going to be too tight. So like your pods are moving around the room. You probably need to spread out this minute. Okay, so folks that are on Zoom, these are things just to kind of think about. We're just going to have this reflective exercise with people that are here in the room. So things that maybe reflect a little bit on your season. If you're a returning mentor, thinking about what works, things you would do differently this season, etc. Okay, so in your little pods, maybe introduce yourself. I love to do like weird fun facts about yourself. So let's say like, what's your name? What agency you work for. If you were a pizza topping, what would you be and why? I would be pineapple because it's not for everybody on a pizza. Probably not everybody. And then I want you as new mentors, if you have some questions you would like to ask our seasoned professionals, you're going to get a chance to do that. Mentors that have been with us, this guy, we'll pick on him. When did you first start with the IIC? Like, what was your internship year? Do you remember? That's awesome. So a long time. 15 years ago. So there's some really great experience in the room. So you can kind of see these questions on the screen. Sorry, the screen's not over here. But things to talk about. So new people, ask some questions, any advice, etc. Veteran mentors, share some things you've learned, maybe something you would do differently, maybe something you've noticed about the current workforce that have been your interns the last few years. This is just a time to not be seated, make a new friend, get you guys up and going a little bit. And again, feel free to spread out anywhere in the room. You don't have to stay clustered on the side. So we'll just do this for, I don't know, 7 minutes or something, and then we'll come back. Okay, cool, go for it.
Like where the say is, like what I mean, no, that's the good stuff. They're from weird. They're from weird. You know, whatever you say is, we're private, the uploading this. The home. Well, I'm here. Really bad. Right. Well, they find go. No, this is quite important. No. Not. one was a little weird, but.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Great bill. It's like on the process.
Okay, just a little time check, just within your groups. Give me like a thumbs up if you guys want or need a little more time, or if you're feeling good. A little more time to chat. Okay.
We have our. It's quite fun. Just like Dawson.
Yeah, I just so yeah.
Yeah.
So later.
Have a payment now.
Hey, maybe you wrap up whoever's chatting or sharing a thought. And then as you're ready, kind of wander on back to this main side of the room. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for taking time to do that. Hopefully you met somebody new or that you heard something insightful or a nice takeaway. We heard a lot of great conversations going on. Something we realized we don't really do all that much is share with y'all evals. Okay, so there's a mid-season eval that interns and mentors, hypothetically, ideally, are filling out. So I thought it'd be interesting to look through the data for the last few years and kind of gather common threads and just share them with you. So this is the part of the day where it gets a little bit of warm fuzzies for you all. So I've posted some great insight that you all have reported that you feel like mentors are gaining from this experience, okay? So I'm not going to read this to you, but as we look through these next few slides, just kind of remembering our why, remembering like, okay, goals of this, program, public land stewardship, that's a big one, of course. But as we go through these next few slides, it might help guide interview questions you decide to ask this year. It might help you narrow in the kind of the strengths you're looking for in an intern. But this was just really, I thought this was really insightful and really, enlightening what you all have shared, your interns have been learning. No one's name is ever attached to any of these. And again, I went back over the last probably 3 years of evals. So we'll just take a second here. Some of it's hard skills that people learn. Some of it was more like soft skills. And of course, that overall gaining knowledge of what it means to be a public land steward. Because we like to say these interns are the future, right? They're the next round of public land managers. Here's another insight that you all have reported. And as you read through this, maybe thinking about, what do you wish someone would have told you your first federal season and your first permanent job, your first professional job within the field of outdoor recreation? Not everyone in the room is a federal employee or federal agency. So thinking back to what you would have wanted in those early days and just knowing that you have the opportunity to help our interns learn and grow in that way. Last slide like this. Awesome. Okay, things that you all have shared with us that are strengths. So this was, again, kind of repeated concepts or topics or strengths that you as mentors noticed and appreciated of your interns. So this is the part that might, again, gauge your interview questions. Maybe this helps write your position description and your overview. Maybe, it'll help you tailor what you're looking for this season, right? A lot of these are like general strengths that all employers hope that, people kind of have. But remembering, I heard this a few times as you all were chatting, a lot of the interns are brand new to the workforce. And I heard someone say you don't know what you're gonna get. Some seasons interns are really motivated, other seasons they weren't so motivated. So thinking about all that, again, just helping you guys going into this season as we post the jobs and figure out what's going on. Just some nice little takeaways. Areas they could improve. Take note here. Okay, so how many people require their interns to take a radio into the field? Awesome, I love that. How many of you do radio training with your interns? Hey, so this one I saw a lot, remembering to take their radio and how to use it. So maybe that's something you spend a little more time on if that's appropriate. If there's a certain skill set, XYZ skills you're wanting folks to work on. And this is going to tie into kind of a little bit more, well, to your role as a mentor, right? So we really encourage you all to check in regularly with your interns, weekly, monthly, not just mid-season and end of season. If there's issues, we encourage you to address them. If you need the IIC support, or if you need us to sit in on meetings or calls or conversations with interns, if performance is not what you expect, we can do that. But don't be afraid to have these conversations with your intern. It's really a bummer when we get to the end of the season and we're now hearing about a problem intern. We want to help sooner. And so hopefully you guys are having those conversations and having the hard conversations. I am terrified of conflict. I know it's difficult sometimes to address things, but remembering you're helping them grow to young professionals. Okay, we took feedback of things that you said we could do better, and we thank you for that. We always want to hear from you guys. So some things that you all have pointed out that you wished we would improve or do better. So I want to just go back real quick to our website. So new folks, maybe some homework for you. Spend some time on our website. There's lots of resources. So things that you all commented, we have a calendar. This has been on the website, but Shannon's worked really hard to keep this updated. So if you're ever not sure about dates, you can reference our calendar here. Of course, the programs and tools, which we talked about. I encourage you to look at the intern tools and the partner tools just to see what's what. There is a mentor guidebook. There's an intern guidebook. Okay, so remembering these tools. But we love to hear from you. I loved like a phone call. I would rather a phone call than an email, honestly. So if you'd rather call us, we can talk you through stuff or set up a Teams chat, something like that. Those of you that were here with us last season, Kevin mentioned the digital showcase. So on our media tab on the left, these are really fun. These are short videos. And this is what the interns put together to kind of highlight their summer. These are the winners. So if you have time to watch these, they're usually 5 minutes or less. You can kind of scroll through and see what's been happening the last few years. So that's for new folks. You may not know that exists. What was my other thing on here? Required forms and tools. So we've tried to make some improvements on the website. I think Taya covered this pretty well, but are there we got a lot of comments from mentors and interns. Just allow overtime, or I'm really confused about holidays. Do y'all feel like you understand holidays? Can they work? Can they not work? Is there time and a half? Cool, okay. And then as far as overtime, again, we know it kind of happens. We just try to avoid it. And it occasionally happens is like my truck got stuck in the sand. My radio fell off my pack and I had to go find it. That's happened to me. Okay, that was an hour adventure in the woods, really great. But I found it and I was really excited to not have to buy a radio for the BLM a long time ago. What else? So just things like that, those are kind of the occasional things we know. And as described, specific projects, just reach out to us. Okay, so again, thank you for your feedback. We want to hear it. Holidays, we talked about. Just kind of revisiting, again, Public Land Hiring Authority. Any other questions we need to address with that at this time, or do we feel okay about Shannon's info? And remembering there's information and links on our website as well. And the big one, the one that we can't fix yet, that we know is annoying to you all, and it's annoying for us as well. So something you guys need to know, not a huge deal, but it is kind of a bummer. So I'm an intern and I'm coming to apply for Laura's rec tech position that's posted right now. We have a few postings right now. Wonderful. So if I, the intern, oh no, this is Mike, sorry. Hi Mike, hi neighbor. Okay, so if I'm applying for Mike's job because he's cool and I want to work with Mike, I'm the intern. I'm going to click this apply today and a job form opens, okay? The bummer, and this is the part we can't fix, is the person applying, the applicant has to copy and paste at the bottom. Where is it? I'm scrolling too fast. Did I pass it? I'm all nervous. Let's see. Where is it? Sorry, let's make everyone seasick. Back to the top. All right, here, sorry, right in the middle. This name of agency contact and email. They kind of have to open 2 tabs in their internet browser to remember that, oh, this needs to go to Mike, and they have to copy and paste it into their application thing. If they don't copy it and paste it in correctly, Mike's not gonna get those applications. But Tay and I have a way on the back end of all this job form stuff to check. So if someone reaches out to you, if I'm like, hey, Mike, I'm really interested in your position, just curious where you're at in the hiring process. Mike might get that email and he might be like, I have gotten nothing from Jen Burton. So if Mike has not gotten anything on a Jen Burton applying for his position, he can call Tay or I and we can check and we can send that on to Mike. It doesn't happen a ton, but it does happen. And so just full disclosure, this is like a weird thing that we want to be able to fix, but we're not quite there yet. Yes.
So I think I've had this, I think I've been having this happen, but so in our office, we've got multiple internships. I think that they've been copy and pasting mine into all the ones that so I've got some that are coming to me. I was assuming those were also going to Mike and Jesse, but I need to make sure those get where they're going. Because they come to me by mistake.
Yep, and I know your name's on a lot of these. I thought I was like, oh, this is gonna be a Laura one, and I was surprised to see Mike. So we can work with you on the back end, Tay, and I can edit on the back end so it goes to who it needs to. And if we want to go through one position at a time.
No.
Okay.
Go to.
Okay.
So if
that's fine. Yeah. If you want to do that for your coworkers, that's amazing. If you want us to fix it so they get it and you save yourself some time, wonderful. But Tay and I have multiple ways to look. The IIC gets a copy of everything. And just so y'all know, last year we had 1,500 applications. We had 225 interns. So it's significant. So anyway, so just know this is a thing that we want to be able to fix, but because it's through job form, it's this weird little glitch that we've had to deal with. So full disclosure on one that we haven't been able to fix for y'all yet, but we're one day. Okay? Yeah.
Another thing too. This is internal.
Oh yeah.
Consider.
They're trying to
following the instructions. Like you get common to say I'm applying for all or applying for internships that are not even posted. So if you guys you're in internships and you're getting applications, that's because maybe they know your name and they're just sending an application for a job that's not
yeah.
Those are common too.
Yeah, people want to apply for all the internships with one application. That doesn't work. Just like if they're on USA Jobs, right? That's usually not going to work, or probably isn't going to work. Oh, you said something, Taya, that made me think. Maybe it'll come to me.
I know misspelling too, and that's why we were trying to get this to fix on.
Yeah, misspelling.
Because people misspell, and sometimes I'm not always going to catch it because when the applications are coming to me, they could be a lot.
So yeah,
in the summer season. So
yep. So yeah, if you guys we can check and be like, oh yeah, we see that 10 people have applied for your position at this point. We can tell you that. We can forward it on to you. So again, please just be in touch. We want to help how we can, given this slight restriction. Okay, and then this is, I think, important to share with you all as well. This is things that interns have shared about their experience, about their mentors, about the program as a whole. Let me go to slideshow mode so it's a little bigger. So again, I'm not going to read this to y'all, but again, thinking from the perspective of what can I do differently as a mentor? What's working, what's not working? There is, of course, truth to every batch of interns is going to be different. Every human being is different. Differences are wonderful, but maybe there's some things that you want to shift or adjust. The biggest one that we do here, these I did kind of put in order, is like being available. And we know like people go on fire, we know people take details. Just make a plan for your intern, for someone to kind of step in if you do have an absence. And then making sure work projects are lined up. I tell this story, I think last year at Mentor Training. So I worked for the BLM a long time ago in a different state. And as eager seasonals showed up on day one and nobody was ready for us. Not a single supervisor that had hired us remembered we were coming on this Monday morning. So we sat in the little lobby foyer for several hours as our poor HR admin person scrambled to get us on board. So that's an extreme story, but be prepared for them. Most people want to work. They want to know what they're doing. And then again, the warm fuzzies, they appreciate the time and effort and they feel their experiences are meaningful and they really admire their mentors. Okay, so even if it's not obvious to you if they're enjoying themselves or anything like that, I do notice, I do a lot of classroom visits and recruiting here on campus and other campuses and people. It seems, I don't want to generalize anyone, but it does seem difficult for some younger students to engage verbally with their superiors. So just, maybe they're really shy, maybe they need you to initiate some conversations to check on them. Okay, this is a lot of what we heard y'all talking about in your little pods. Many people are new to the workforce. Yes, they need guidance. Yes, they need reminded to turn in their timesheet. That's probably one of Taya's biggest headaches every 2 weeks is timesheets. You'll get the emails. Remembering that they want to learn and they need to be shown. And people do need feedback. They're entitled to that. That's this mentorship aspect, right? So some people, this is it's just a job for the summer. Okay, but also like within the concept of mentorship, there is that element of feedback and constructive criticism and opportunities for growth. So that's how we need your help. And this is really big. I think a lot of feedback from last year when we did the roundtable. Laura and Mike, y'all helped with that. Braden, you helped with that at the intern end of season celebration. At IIC orientation last year, they want to know how you got to where you're going. Okay, my husband teaches here on campus in the outdoor rec department, and so we work really closely with those students and get to do class visits and talk about USA jobs and resumes, and they're always just really curious about how you got to where you are. So tell them if it took you 5 seasons. BJ, we were talking about this. Okay, did you pave the way with Women in Fire program once upon a time? Did you have a really unique opportunity because maybe you were right place at right time and you were able to get picked up in your permanent position? Maybe you are like me, I worked seasonally, took some time off for the federal government, took some time off, went back as a perm, whatever. So my federal career spanned over 10 years, but they weren't consecutive years. Okay, whatever, just share how you got to where you are. Kids want to know what classes they should be taking, what they should be learning in school. That's a great thing. That's a gift you can give them if you share your journey. Okay, last slide of this, warm fuzzies for sure. Please never end this program. Thanks for the opportunity. A lot of meaningful work was accomplished by the interns this season. And we've been involved in this program for several years and could not be more impressed. So thank you for your feedback and your work and being dedicated. Those of you that don't know, the IIC started in 2007. So we're going into our 18th season. And even though this year might look a little different, we still are doing good work and you guys are doing excellent. So that's all I have for you. Any thoughts or comments or anything that was like really like should be shared with the whole group that you heard over here? Yeah.
I just have one question.
Sure. Yeah.
Descriptions for wet text, ortho text, range text.
Use like your federal one and edit that. Did we leave? Is there a P that? Okay. Okay. And you can, what position would you be posting, for example?
So in the past, I've used the CAN language for a recreation position. And in special needs or in the specific instructions, I put in the particulars unique to my location.
Okay, cool. Okay, you
I was
know,
gonna say too, if you posted with us last year, I have copies of all those job postings, so especially if you're new and you're not sure what you posted last year, you can reach out to me and I can send you what we posted last year for you too. That's fine.
yeah. We did, it was kind of, we had, for those of you who maybe remember, we had like a drop-down menu of like different types of, and that was really clogging some things up, so we pulled those down, but we still have some of that canned language that we've talked about maybe putting like in a PDF or something on our website for y'all to reference. But if there's if this is a pretty standard position to what would be hired through your agency, I would maybe kind of use that language. But we can help you out. Just reach out if you're like, what did we do last year? Or this really worked, or we can help with that. But it was kind of clogging up our back end of our job forms. So anyway, thank you for that question. Any other questions? And then the next thing's going to be Suzette and budgets. Okay, so I emailed everyone that signed in the 2 links that Suzette's going to reference. I think one of them bounced back, and I don't want someone to feel put on the spot, but somebody Shakespeare at the BLM, are they still in the room? Is that you? I think yours bounced back. So maybe like look at.
Oh, it's J. Should be J.
Is Brooke here? Okay,
Are you?
I just needed to talk to Brooke.
Okay, are you Jay Shakespeare at BLM? Okay, yours for some reason bounced back, so you probably aren't going to see the email. Anyway, phone a friend here. Okay, and then those of you at Zoom, I've put those links in the chat. But Suzette made a mock, well, we keep referring to this monthly update reports. So she'll talk more about it. We'll transition to get Suzette up here. And this will be your handy dandy tool during the season to check on what remains of your budget, how many hours they've worked, and several other things. So Suzette, are you going to want the lapel mic or the handheld mic? Because you have to use one so Zoom gets picked up. I know neither. I know the preference is neither, but okay. Okay. All right. Come on up. And if we need to move stuff around for your little foot, we will. And Suzette, do you want me to start on the slide or on your, okay. Okay. Cool. Oh, and I guess you can scan the QR code maybe if you didn't get the email or something, but some of these spreadsheets are hard to look at on a phone, so. So whenever you want to go to your budget spreadsheet, if you just escape, okay, there's a bazillion tabs open right now. Let me close. Let me close some. So there's your job form.
Okay.
And then there's your monthly example. And then we're here on the Google slideshow. So just, yeah, escape. Okay, it's all you, my friend. And the mic is there and the slider button for power. Okay. Oh. Slide. There we go. Is that on? Okay. Hi, welcome.
Thank you again for coming today. I've been with Outdoor Pathways officially for 6 months now. However, I have worked with Josh and the IIC program for about 10 years. I had been in the grants office, and then I was a budget analyst for our division. And excited to be here, and just want to let you people know that I want this budget submission to be as user-friendly and as easy as possible for you. And as we look at our monthly reports and things like that, should that screen sharing be hid? I guess it doesn't matter. Anyhow, so we have our monthly update spreadsheets, and as many as you know, it's been under construction for a little bit. And that's because I came and noticed some things that I wanted to have changed so that the information would be more valuable to you as a mentor. And so we have a new student intern that's been working with us for a few months, and she is great. Her name is Sarah. Oh, I was going to text her. She wanted to be text, but we were presenting in case she could come by. She's got class all day today. But if you have any questions or things like that, I do have my business card that is by Shannon's, wherever that's ended up. And then our IIC accounting is Sarah's email address. So if you have questions about things and want to talk to her, feel free to send her an email and she can reach out to you or myself. Anyhow, so we have our monthly update sheets that you'll be seeing, and on those it includes the award number, fund number, index, the grant purpose, specific grant requirements, active interns, and the active ones, and your expenses, similar to what Shannon was sharing with you earlier. And
My bad.
I think it's just right here.
It's that link right there.
Okay.
There you go. You got it.
So this is what you will see, something similarly to this for each of your own awards that you've got. And we have, here is your, let's see if I can get that. We'll have the master agreement number, indexes. There's some things that are going to be on your actual one that are not showing on this because we added those last night. But when you go to your monthly update, we have changed it now so that what you see in this box right here is exactly what we see on SUU's budget system, which is called Banner. So this is going to be an exact replica of what we are seeing in our office, what our accounting services team on campus is seeing, so that you have the exact same information that we have. And that had not necessarily been there before. Here we have your active interns that are here, the budgeted amount that you have, what's been expended, what they have remaining. Then below, I don't know how to get that to roll down. Below, you'll also have your inactive interns that are going to show here so that you can look. We encourage you, as you look at these monthly updates, to be looking and saying like, oh, Jane Porter, she should have been changed to 29 hours a week. So that's when you need to reach out to us so that we can make sure that that gets changed so that you can see that information there. But I think that this will be really great for you to be able to see what we are seeing exactly. And it's just taken us a while to get everything done. And Sarah has been very diligent in getting these updated on our actual monthly budget updates. So your information is correct on those right now. Let's see. So the next thing I want to go over is going to be do you have any questions on the monthly update? I guess I should ask first. Or is there something that you've noticed that could be made more clear as you go to review those?
The only thing I'll have like like Cedar City, BLM and Canab BLM, we both put money to a similar agreement, but it's different accounting codes. Is that still gonna pull out as separate?
It will.
Like we had before, and then basically the pie's gone, like the big pie at the top is gone, but then breakdown at the bottom is.
Right, right. So, so we do have that right here. Like I said, I don't know how to get this. Can you get it to?
Line.
I know, my little touchpad is wild.
I just want to get, oh, thank you. I want to get over here. Okay, this is what I want to show. Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So this will be what you will see, will be this breakdown. And here in this activity code, that's where you will see the difference between your different interns. So we've got Jane Porter here and Mickey Mouse and those different people so that you can see that. And then above that, sorry, I'm the grandmother of the department.
No. This is a special laptop and touchpad. Remember how you got a new computer and it was ridiculous? Yeah, it's the same with this one.
Anyhow, so go back over there. So this right here is what you're referring to is this, that here's your $75,000. Canab has this much, Cedar has this much, and so that you can see that and what you have left available. And just so that you know, some of our sheets, and I need to clarify with Josh, but some of these on this current available funding, some may already take into effect what you have obligated for an intern so that you're not double spending that. And others would just be like, as of today, what you have left. So depending on how you want to see that, we can make that happen for you. Yeah, so can I go back to this mouse? Yeah, just up here to the top.
Yeah, use the rolly.
Does the rolly work? Does it take me over this way? Okay,
so I think 2 fingers.
Okay, so right here where it says updated, this cell right here that we have highlighted in yellow, that will tell you the last time that we updated your monthly update sheet to our banner information. So that's one thing that you will want to make sure that you take into account, that this was updated on January 14th. We've already had now another pay period that has been submitted, and so that you'll want to take that into consideration. And down here, oh, okay, maybe that doesn't show on this. Anyhow, you can figure out, like, based on their hours and their week that they had, how much more would have came out of that budget, so that you can do that calculation. Anything else on this?
On the lag time, like, so payroll, there's like this big lag time, something worth noting.
Right, so with the hourly employees, as Taya was saying, they submit their time on the 15th and the 30th, but they're not paid. And so their 30th pay doesn't come until the 10th, and their other one comes on the 15th, 25th. Yeah. I saw 25 in my head. Yeah. On the 25th. So the 10th and the 25th. So where this was updated on the 14th, you're only going to have the 10th pay period. So this is only going to be your payroll for the end of the previous month. So just to take that into consideration. So that is a little tricky there. Anything else on this monthly update?
I think it will be better. The pie sometimes looks confusing when you're like just trying to show somebody the big pie. And so I think this is a hard number, like the numbers are clear. I
Right,
know the numbers were there, but like when I was showing a manager, like, here, look at this one, they lob to the pie. Because that's just our nature to look. At
Right,
numbers,
like
I
a-
think, and I think this is organized better, so I.
Yeah, no, like I said, I've been working with these budgets for the past 10+ years. And when I pulled up one, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm seeing. Like, it doesn't have the information that I wanted to see, let alone something to share with you. So I think that this will be really helpful to include all of that so that we're talking the same numbers all the time. Okay. Okay, so our budget accounting for budget submissions and adjustments. I've, like I said, want this to be as user-friendly as possible. And internally, we've had some questions as to like what we were seeing when the budget spit out and things like that. So we've gone ahead and we have tried to pare down a lot of the information, and I've done some calculations and things like that. So the form really should take care of itself. And we can look at that right now. And one of the things too that we can go over with this form, and if you have it pulled up on your computer and you want to look at it, or if you just want to play with it later when you get back to the office, that is totally great. But the things that we want to think about first, like we were just talking about, is there pending payroll? Have you paid the bonus yet if they were eligible for that? Or do you have some unused expenses? One thing, let me show you on that really quickly. And again, some of ours are set up a little bit differently, but this right here on this, right here with this remaining travel budget, if you're near the end or if all your travel has happened and you want to move some of that travel money into personnel costs, we can do that. We have most of our awards, federal awards, they allow for a 10% change in the budget without having to have sponsor approval. And basically, you're the sponsor. So if you are saying we would like to have that and it's more than that, we just need that in writing from you that I would like to convert that. And then depending on the IDC rate that we have, that can affect some of those calculations too. But that would just be something for you to kind of look at as you're doing things so that we're not at the last 60 days and you've got thousands of dollars left in travel or in current expense, so that we can do that. Okay, so here is the IIC intern budget submission. I have made it so that we can do a couple of different little scenarios with you. Yeah, so I'll go back to it. So here's a scenario. How much money do I need for an intern? Maybe you don't even know what it's going to cost you. Say that you are in your budget planning aspect of things, okay? So let's go to our form. And I'm also, Jot form says that we can make this so this will autofill. So once you've been using it and things like that, if you're tired of putting in your agency and your location and then your mentor name and email and phone number, it says that we can make that so that that's something that would be autofilled. So I think that that would be really, really great. Yeah, so we will keep that on our radar for doing that. And anyhow, so you would fill out that information. One of the things right here is this award and agreement number. Copy and paste is our friend. Like, I know that we've all know that. And up here, we can copy. We can copy our award number, the fund number, and the index. You're used to using the award number. On our end, we use the fund and the index. So if you are to copy that and then just paste that, just a Control V, that information will be there so that that will help us all with making sure we have this budget go on the correct award. I've set this up, so the first thing that you need to do is decide on your indirect cost rate. If you are on a CPCSU or have a reduced cost rate of the 17.5% of your total directs, you would click that. If you are on a youth agreement, you would click youth agreement. If you are on something that is 45% salary, wages, and benefits, which is SUU's approved federal F&A, that means facilities and administration, also IDC or overhead, you can call that a number of different terms. That's our federally negotiated rate. So if you are on that and not on a reduced CPCSU, then you would calculate that. Or if you have a special rate for some reason. And I've made this so that any of our people can use this. So you would need to click that. And so one of these would need to be clicked at the very beginning. If you are wanting to do your budget planning, so here in this other, we'll just say that it's a 10% modified total direct cost. So that would mean that would be 10% of everything except for equipment. And so you would just put that there so that we have that information. And then down here, you're going to be required to enter in that percent amount that you have so that it will do our calculations. So that would be 10, if that's what you have. For the most part, I think a lot of you are on the 17.5%. And then if you are getting the new youth agreements, and I know that Laura Kitchen, that you just got that, and a lot of our state parks have that. The parks, we've seen them working on a 1-year youth agreement, and Laura, we're lucky that hers is a 5, right? So that's been really helpful for that. So, so what we're trying to do right now is find out how much money do I need to put some people out there on the field. And so the first thing that you'll have to answer is this indirect cost rate. Then you need to, I'll get this fixed. I moved this one in my other one that I was working with. Then you'll need to say, is the work site, the physical work site of our employee, are they located in Utah? Yes or no? If it's yes, then it will be just normal. If it's no, that means it's an out-of-state intern, which is going to be subject to those additional costs that Taya was telling you about. There's going to be, payroll will be processed through ZAMP. There's going to be additional processing fees that will be added and an additional benefit rate, depending on what state the people are in. And also, this is still a little bit under construction, is if you want, Josh said a lot of you would like to be able to, like, you know, right ahead that you are planning to have an extended internship, that you could mark here that, yes, I want it to be combined, like Taya's talked, where it's the 40 hours a week for 24 weeks up to the 960, and then that extension for the 29 weeks up to additional 18, not to exceed the 1,500. So you could put in here yes or no. So that will also need to be filled out.
So what if you're not sure?
I would just say no, because you could always go in, sorry, you could, let's go shopping.
Yeah, like bought a new bathing suit, it didn't fit, surprise, surprise. So we'll be returning that to Target later. Thank you.
Sorry. Good. So if we don't know yet, let's just put no, because we can always submit another budget with that extension, okay? So we don't anticipate a combined right now. We're just trying to figure out how much money do we need. Our physical location, we are located in Utah. Do we know if we are employing an SU student? Again, we have down here 6 or more credit hours. They need to have been enrolled or be enrolled. We'll say that no, they are not an SU student. You can put in your name. You don't even have to fill out all of this just to get your total amounts. I've been playing with it all week long, trying to make sure that all of this adds up. This would be your intern title. If you want to do that, if you, as you're trying to set your budget, that you're like, okay, this is my archaeological intern, and this is my gift shop person, or this is my field crew. No, we don't say crew. This is my field technician intern, that you could put this information because you'll be able to save this and print it later. So you can have that for your files if that's something that you need. Additional details and instructions, if that's where you want to just give us a heads up of what's going on, if you're wanting to maybe exchange some of your travel money for personnel costs, things like that, you could give us whatever type of information you want here. But again, right now, we're just trying to figure out how much money is it going to cost me. So we have an hourly wage of $18. We want them to work for the 40 weeks. 40 hours a week for 24 weeks. We want to give them a bonus. Here's our travel budget. So this is not for relocation costs, as they were saying, is the $50 a day per diem. If you need to do that, if you want them to camp, you can figure that out. I've put a calculator, again, this is not totally updated. I've moved the calculator so it's going to be a little bit closer to where you're actually going to be doing your calculations so that you can figure that out, what you need. Again, this is also not updated. I have done the vehicle insurance expense that you'll see now. So this is current expense. This will also include that certificate fee. I've added that now, and vehicle insurance that you can say yes or no, you think you're going to need it, and the number of vehicles that you'll need to have and the number of months that you want that. So you can do a calculation. So if they're sharing a vehicle and you're doing one intern's budget, then they are driving a half of a vehicle for 3 months. And again, I will have that calculator is going to be right up there so that you can be making those calculations and putting those in so that if you have that. So then that would calculate into here. And then what we can see right now from what we put in for $18 an hour for a non-student working in the state of Utah on a 17.5% total direct cost overhead with a $500 bonus, that is going to cost us $23,085.11. That's just like your bare minimum on that. So that would give you an idea of what you would need. If you're like, okay, that's a lot more money than I have. I really only have 20,000 that I have available. So you will need to recalculate and get rid of another $3,000. So then you could come up here and say, you know what, I really can only do them maybe for 22 weeks. Still over budget. Okay, maybe I can only work them 35 hours a week for 22 weeks. What's that going to give me? Okay, I'm good. That will work within my $20,000 budget. Okay. And then you can say when you want them to start. I'll put this as March. So with those calculations, that person would be working through August 16th. And you would still have $1,300 that would be available. So then you could use that if you need supplies or travel. So you can kind of use that as a basis for what you think you might need. And again, the one you're going to be seeing has a little bit more updates on it that I've been doing today. If you already know that this 17.5%, that you don't have to worry about that you know that you've got $15,000 for your intern or $20,000 for their wages, and that IDC is living someplace else and you don't have to worry about that. That's your financial person that's there. On this other right here, just put a 0 on that. Then you're not going to have any IDC calculated at all. So if you didn't have to pay the IDC on that, then get refreshed. Anyhow, it should refresh, and then you can just go on. Oh, it's because right here, we didn't put the 0 in. That's why it's not working. So you need to put that percent in there. And well, still didn't refresh, but anyhow, so that should give you an idea of what you've had. Without having to pay that IDC, now you've gotten a longer work period out of them. So your IDC was collected someplace else. If then these calculations will come up if you're needing to put that in your budget form, that your wage calculation is this 14,360. Here's your benefits, your total personnel costs, and then these additional buckets that you have here. You would be expecting 778 hours from them, and this is their gross hourly rate based on that. Okay. Let's clear our form. Okay. Let's see right here where it says how much money is available. How much longer can I work this intern? So right now we know the dollar amount that we have. And we can see from our sheet here that with Buzz Lightyear, I've got $7,051 that's left with Buzz Lightyear. And Buzz has been off for a little bit. We've, or we're thinking that we want to give Buzz a pay raise or something like that. We can go in with this $7,000 and find out how long that money is going to last us with that. And what they can work. So here what you need to do is the hourly rate and the number of weeks that we feel like we've got. Oh, that's the number of hours, sorry. We're working them 29 hours, and we would really like for them to go 5 more weeks. And right here, my available budget that I have is at $7,500. And as of today's date, so we've already had our pay period, we're going to say they're starting their new pay period on the 16th. So they could work until May 9th. With that available budget that you have. And I have just updated, so there's going to be a requested date here so that you can see the difference in your calculations. So it will show like, oh, I only thought I had 5 hours I could work. 5 weeks that we could work. And then that would say, with what you've put in, this would be your end date, but this projected is what your cash will actually take care of for you on that. And you can review your answers. Oh, I didn't fill in all of the required information, so it's not going to show there. But then when I go to submit, if I'm in deficit on my budget, you're going to get an error that's going to say you don't have enough money and you need to do your recalculation before you can submit. And then you can submit, and then you can print the form and you'll get a copy of this budget. And like I said, if you just want to use it for your own purposes, for doing some calculations and things like that, I've designed it so that should work. So until you can really get in there and play, I guess. Is there any questions, anything that you would like to see added on here that I haven't thought about? And as we get going, like I said, we could change, like just today with our vehicles, how we've changed that. So that would be a number of months and things like that. But anyhow, I'm excited to work with you. And I want this to be, like I said, as easy as possible for you, and have this to be a tool so that you're not necessarily would have to be reliant on calling us to say like, oh, how much money do I have left? How much longer can they work? That might be something that now, the way we have it designed, that you can figure that out. And you're always welcome to call us though too, and we can work through that together.
And you were saying next year it would be replicable, or?
No, this year. Yeah. So apparently what happens, job form, when I Googled like, how can I make this happen? Once you've filled it out one time, then I can send you an individual link to that form that will have your content information in it. And then you can just bookmark that instead of having to go to our website. And then all of that information should just be there for you. Like I said, it says it can do it. I haven't tried it yet, but
sometimes there's weird like firewall stuff from the federal side that I don't know if you
Well, and then
guys.
you still have a lag on when you see it and send the form. So if there's 10 of them we want to do, we might want to do one and give a day or two for a response, or is it going to?
it should be an auto response, and then you can just say, hey, I'm getting ready to submit some budgets. Can you get me my URL? And then we can just send that to you and see if it works. So we're just trying to, it's a brand new day and hoping that it's something that can work and make it user friendly for you so that you're not having to do that over and over and over. So, and if you do have multiple interns that you are working, once you get that calculation of what that one would be, you could just go into that calculator that's on there and times that amount by the 4 interns that you need, or whatever, as you're trying to just get an idea of what things might cost.
But each intern needs an individual budget.
They do, yes. Because we'll want to have that intern's name and their title that they're doing. And then, if they're have a different dollar amount or they're working different, if one's not driving, whatever types of differences that we might see. Now, one of the things too that we have is where we have Great Basin and also Pipe Spring, that those are considered technically an out-of-state work site. And so those also have to go through XAMPP on that, even though your student might be living in Kanab and driving and working every day at Pipe Spring, because their physical work site is out of the state, it has to be processed through ZAP. So those are just the main things to really consider on that, is to make sure that, you know, it's in state or out of state, you know, that you just answer those questions. And then that's going to open up the calculations and do it that way. And just as a reminder, budgets are just an estimate. So, you know, we're trying our best to get it as close as possible. And then depending on the number of hours that your interns work and things like that, you know, and the jobs that you've got for them, those can always change. But like I said, we can now kind of do that projection when you can say, like, I've got this much money left. We did it for Jen, one of Jen's mentors the other day. They had like $5,000 left. And so we just said, okay, how far can this get us? And then also, just so that we know the difference, because I know there's been a lot of questions on my part, at least, on the start date and the end, well, on the end date, because you'd say, I want them to work clear through the end of May, but the money that you had available will only get them through the end of March. And so that should take out all of that discrepancy right now, because it will take into account what you want and your dollar amounts and the things like that you haven't thought about. So, or they can work longer than you thought they could. But hopefully we can use that as a tool. Yes, Taya?
So this is kind of a good thing too, is like do the budget first, especially when you're doing the original hire before you do the agreement. Because the intern isn't gonna see the budget. But what they are gonna see is the new hire agreement that you submit, because that has been differed quite a bit. Like your budget may say March 30th, but then you put in an agreement first that you are putting April 30th. The intern is assuming that they're gonna work till April when you only actually have the money till March. So I would definitely make sure you're doing your budget first when you're hiring an intern before you do the agreement. So you know what that end date's gonna be, because your intern doesn't see anything about the budget, and technically when they're given an agreement, that's kind of like their contract. So we just wanna make sure those budgets are matching with the actual hire agreement that you're doing.
And again, copy and paste is your friend. Once you've saved your budget and it's in a PDF that you're looking at, you should just be able to highlight, copy, paste, and have a lot of that information there. And I don't know, maybe we can even at some point look at, because I think if I can think of it, should be able to make the computer do it, is my philosophy. So maybe we might even be able to get to the point where we're like, okay, here's a budget. Now, do you want to submit an agreement? And it would take
And it would build it.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be great? At least with some of the information.
You guys, you can't see this, but Taya is like,
Don't. But maybe some of that, and you know, we can look at it and see, because a lot of it is going to be your same exact information. So
less errors that way.
Right.
There's a way to like suck one into the other. I know that's not computer speak, but
I know.
that's usually what happens from one to the other.
Right.
Is there's a mistake that like you mess up an email or you goof up a phone number or.
Right. Yep. Taya has a comment.
Another thing too, which I'm hoping is where I have my fingers with that, is the fact that you're doing the budget with the adjustment, we may be able to just get rid of the adjustment. Because we have a budget right now. Because that's also been another common question, is people will submit an adjustment and they wait to submit a budget because they're not 100% sure on budget stuff, which that could help because it's all in one.
Right.
The only difference is like where I know there was like a special comment, so the only thing that may not technically be a budget issue is like a mentor change. Everything else with the
Murray and husband Jason.
Sorry. This is my work computer. I'm feeling embarrassed about Target and my dog.
Can we go back to that intern budget, wherever that might live?
Sorry. The job form.
The job form, yeah. Yeah, so right here on this, I'm really nervous because none of this has really been updating like I thought it would. But right here, if you anticipate that this is going to be a combined internship, and if you put yes on that, then it's going to give you some more information down here a little bit lower saying, okay, so now for your extension, how many hours per week do you want them to work? And the number of weeks that you want. And when do we anticipate that you're going to have to switch them? So our projected end date initially was May 9th. And so now you're out of money, you know, if everything goes as planned. So then your extension would now start on 5/10. That would be the date that you would need to have your interns reduce their hours to the 29. So still just kind of working on that just a little bit, but I think I'm like so close. I've been saying that for days. Yeah. So we can get that to you, and like I said, if you see it and you're like, oh, you know, this is a little bit confusing to me, then maybe I can have some more language that's there so you understand what we want, or we can just change it. And I've tried to also, not in this one, but I have it so that it will be aligned with what you're going to see in your monthly update. So you'll have your wages first, then your benefits, your current expense, your travel, and then so that those will go there. If you do have somebody that's out of state, the current expenses that you put in do not include your processing fee, but those will calculate into your budget. So you don't have to worry about like they're working how many weeks and how many pay periods will they be, and I need to add up $12.50 per pay period, you know, that kind of crazy stuff. You won't have to worry about that. It'll just be for your PPE, supplies, or the certificates, things like that. Any questions, concerns, jokes? No jokes. Okay, I'll turn the time over to Jen. Thank you. Start with budget questions. They start with you. I think with us.
Okay. And then just, yeah, Suzette's been with our team for the last 6 months. So budget questions, help with job forms. She's kind of the first stop of help. Josh helps with budget stuff kind of on the agreement side, but Suzette will be really instrumental in helping you guys with building it in the job form. And Tay and I still will be learning this new system, but Suzette is an expert and has built out a lot of things, and we're very excited.
I just know enough to be dangerous. And like I said, if I can think about it, I want to make sure that it can work and be beneficial for all of us. Yeah. So, awesome. Okay, thank you. Okay.
So yeah, that's it. Other questions, thoughts, things we need to talk about?
We have one question on Zoom.
Okay.
So for asking, somewhat unrelated to budget, for recent graduates, is the 2 years valid until the day they apply or the day that we onboard them? Example, if you have someone in mind that graduated in April 2020, would they qualify as a recent grad still if they applied in March? Don't start. We're trying to figure out how to answer that. Yes. But if we're doing that 1,500, we can still technically do it, but we're starting that. Yeah, it's going to be kind of that rule.
Get like more season.
Yeah. It gets kind of, but I guess we're going to really look at it is that on students. Yeah, they'll just do 600 and on students they graduate. So they can work up to $1,500. Because that's basically the staff scholar looking at it is SUU student versus non-student. It doesn't matter once they graduate as this year.
And we're gonna do that starting April
This year. So if anybody's hired from now to basic, this whole year is it's starting at. So if they work last summer or whatever, we're not counting the student. It's as of 2020. That so if they started 2022. Yeah, so me and you all work together. That's what you do.
Okay, we'll be in the room. You guys can chat with us if you need anything. Thank you so much for being here. We're thinking of you guys as we're all waiting for more answers. And that's everything for today. So season 18, here we go.
Okay, awesome.
We should be good to proceed, right?